Yeah.
So you talk.
You're right there. Aaron, are we ready?
Yes, you just need to
Okay,
unmute.
great. Welcome, everyone. To call the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting of March 21st, 2024 to order. We have 3 public hearings scheduled for this evening, so I want to take a few minutes to review the process for public hearings and the current hybrid format of our meetings. During the public hearing, the applicant will be invited to present the application, explaining to the commission and others present what is being requested. The applicant or staff will share all application materials on the screen, or so we have some hard copies here today too. As needed, comments of town agencies will be read for each application if there are any. There will be clarifying questions from the commissioners. Then there will be an opportunity for clarifying questions from attendees. For Zoom attendees, please raise your hand on the Zoom platform and wait to be called on and unmuted. As this public hearing must be recorded, attendees will state their names and addresses before asking their questions. Next, those who wish to support the application may come forward, and then those who oppose the application may come forward. We often do that simultaneously to save time. See how it goes. Again, it is necessary for speakers to identify themselves each time they speak by stating their name and address. The applicant will then have an opportunity to address any questions or concerns raised by the public and or the commissioners. Once the public hearing is closed, the applicant is free to leave or remain for the balance of the regular meeting, during which the commission will reach a decision on each application. Each applicant will be notified in writing as to the decision of this commission and has a right to appeal to Superior Court if desired. Decisions of this meeting are available the day after the meeting by calling the Land Use Department at 203-245-5631 after 9 a.m. All actions taken tonight by the commission will be by roll call. All commissioners and staff will identify themselves for the record before speaking. Seated this evening are members in alphabetical order. Mike Bugda, maybe raise your hand when I say your name. Jeff Downs, John Duza, John Morgan, Bob O'Connor, Janet Peckinpah, Bob Reinhardt. You'll see Andy Rubin, but he may be joining us, and myself, Carol Snow, chair. Staff present this evening is Aaron Mannix, our town planner. This meeting is live streamed on YouTube and will be made available on the town website for viewing. Additionally, I would like to ask that we treat each other respectfully throughout the meeting. And a quick reminder to please turn off your phones. The town planner will now read the legal notes.
Thank you, Carol. Notice is hereby given that the Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing on Thursday, March 21st, 2024 at 7 p.m. in Meeting Room A, Town Campus, 8 Campus Drive, Madison, Connecticut, 06443. This is a hybrid meeting, and attendees may also join via Zoom webinar, either through the webinar link or call in information below. The webinar ID is 915-8196-6735. The passcode is 452138. And the call-in number is 646-558-8656. The following applications will be heard: 24-06 plus coastal site plan 1339 and 1341 Boston Post Road. Map 31, lots 34 and 34-1, Zone C Commercial. Owner is HPS Associates, 1339 Boston Post Road LLC, 1341 Boston Post Road LLC, and 1343 Boston Post Road LLC. The applicant is 1339 and 1341 Boston Post Road LLC. Special exception permit per sections 6.1.2.2 and 6.15.2 and coastal site plan application to construct two 3-story mixed-use buildings with commercial uses on the first floor and 12 residential units on the upper floors, 24 units total, and associated site improvements. Second application is, is Madison Planning and Zoning Commission proposed regulation text amendment to sections 3.3B and 19 to comply with Public Act 23-142, family child care homes and group child care homes. The third application is 24-08, 885 Boston Post Road, map 39, lot 20, zone D, downtown district. Owner applicant is Dow Enterprises LLC, Downtown Village District, major alteration and special exception permit modification per section 6.2.2.2 and 6.2.4 to demolish existing mixed-use building and construct a new 2-story office building with on-site parking and associated site improvements. Copies of these applications are available for inspection in the Land Use Office. Further details on how to participate in the webinar are posted on the Town of Madison website, www.madisonct.org. All written correspondence can be submitted to the Land Use Department via email to landuse@madisonct.org. Dial 203-245-5631 for assistance. Dated at Madison, Connecticut, this 15th day of February 2024. Carol Snow, Chair. This was published once in the source on March 7th and once on March 14th.
Thank you, Erin. So we're going to stick with our agenda as it was written and posted and start with 24-06, 1339 and 1341 Boston Post Road. Could I have a motion to open the public hearing for 24-06? In a second. Second. Janet, any discussion? All in favor? All right, great. The applicant like to give a presentation.
We would, thank you. My name is Jeffrey Beatty. I'm an attorney in Guilford, office of Jeffrey Beatty, 20 Water Street. And thank you for allowing us to present this evening. Aaron, if you call up that map, I can email it. And I'm going to hand out hard copies of these. This is a copy of a map that's on file at the town clerk's office. It was filed back in 2006. Giving it to you, I think it might be helpful with regard to what we're asking for in relation to what was previously approved by this commission. So,
Great, thanks.
if you look at this property is at 1339 and 30. Properties we're talking about tonight are 1339 and 1341 Boston Post Road. They're between, say, Hammonasset Package Store, which is at 1333 Boston Post Road, and the white building with the pillars in front on 1347 Boston Post Road. So just to kind of orient you as to what's going on. Those properties were part of an application for special exception permits that was presented to this commission and approved by this commission in 2004 as part of the overall development of that section of town. It's located in it was then located in the commercial district. It's still located in the commercial district. Now your C district under your current zoning regulations. If you look at the map, this map was filed in the town clerk's office in 2006. And the properties that we're talking about in tonight's application are, this is 1341, this is 1339. And I want to point those out to you, but if you look at the size of the lots and the location and the size of the footprints of the building, and you compare them to what we're presenting this evening, they're identical. The changes that we're asking for are under your regulations are with regard to the height, because your regulations have changed, which will allow the size of the buildings to be increased to a height of 45 feet, subject to your approval. So it's a 30-foot height requirement, but by special exception, this commission has the ability to increase the height to 45 feet. Our application is to propose mixed use of the properties, commercial use on the first floor, which is the same as what was proposed back in 2004 and was approved by this commission, and then 2 floors of residential 2-bedroom apartments on the second and third floors of each of the proposed buildings. There are on the land records, there are cross easements throughout all of these properties to share parking amongst all of the buildings. So we'll have Mike Ott, our engineer, present the parking scheme, but there's a cross easement agreement of record on the Madison Land Records as we speak, where all the owners of these properties have agreed to share the parking and access over these parcels, because it was part, as I mentioned earlier, part of a design to develop this entire location. So I just wanted to make the commission aware that for something that has not been built yet, but that was contemplated by the developer and by this commission back in 2004.
No.
I know, exactly. Exactly. But the commission was, and the commission decided that was a use that they felt was appropriate for that location. The other aspect that we're here requesting a special exception for is the ratio of residential use to commercial use. This is in a commercial zone, but we're also requesting mixed use with a residential component. The threshold, the maximum of the ratio is 200%. We're over that threshold in both buildings, but this commission has discretion to modify that ratio if you find that the requested number of housing dwelling units helps diversify Madison's housing portfolio and doesn't substantially erode the commercial development potential of the district. And our argument is that it does introduce more housing to the Madison housing market. It helps diversify the housing market, and it doesn't impact the commercial development of the district, because the properties to the east and the west of this property have already been developed, and we're proposing commercial use on the first floor of those buildings. So we're keeping the spirit, the commercial intent of this district, but we're introducing additional housing to the Madison market, and that's why we feel that this request is something that the commission could feel comfortable approving, given what we're proposing to do and how that was the original intent of this development when it was initially proposed in 2004. We also feel that it helps achieve one of the goals of your comprehensive plan of conservation and development, in that one of the goals of the plan was to increase commercial development within the town, but not necessarily at the town center. This, as we know, is at the eastern part of the town on Route 1 as you approach the Clinton boundary, and it's not expanding a commercial district. It's within an existing commercial district. So we're not asking you to change the character of an existing district into something that permits this use. It's already permitted under your regulations. So we feel that it satisfies one of the goals of the comprehensive plan of development, and that it increases the economic growth of the town. It's not increasing it within the center of the town, and it's introducing diversifying the housing. So for those reasons, we think, as you'll hear more about what the project's all about, we think that we ask you to look at the application through that lens, considering what you're here this evening. Having said that, I'm going to turn it over to Mike Ott, joining us remotely, and so he can take over the presentation from here. And we'll be happy to answer any questions from you or the public throughout the presentation.
Like your turn, your
Good evening, everyone. Just for the record, I'm Mike Ott. I'm a licensed professional engineer and land surveyor with Summerhill Civil Engineers and Land Surveyors here in Madison, on Wall Street. Aaron, can I share my screen?
Yes.
So, can the commission see my screen now? There should be an aerial image up.
Yes, we can. Thanks.
Okay. So I'm just gonna, Jeff had showed you the overall, the parcels that make up the marketplace development, and I just thought I would add to that and show you, this aerial image, of the site. So these two, didn't mean to do that. This parcel, this yellow parcel that's outlined is lot 34. This is street address 1339. And this parcel right next door to the east is lot 34-1, assessor's lot 34-1. And the street address is 1341 Boston Post Road. So the 5 parcels that Attorney Beatty showed you are this parcel that's highlighted. This is 1333, which is the Hammonasset Package Store. The 2 parcels that I just described, the 2 undeveloped parcels. And then this is 1343 Boston Post Road. This is the parcel with the white building with the large columns in front. And I'm sorry, the last parcel here, I believe the address is 1347. And this is where Cohen's Bagels is in this right-hand side of the building. So those are the parcels that make up the marketplace development. And then I'll zoom in just a little bit more. Let me try to get rid of some of this. So this is a little bit more zoomed in of the 2 parcels, lot 34 and lot 34.1, and you can see that they're both undeveloped currently. This is a 2016 ortho image, an ortho photograph, and it's still accurate. It shows a 7 parking space area on the lot that this parcel uses. And there's a paved area here. There's no parking spaces actually delineated, but there's a bituminous concrete paved area on this site also. Please stop me if you have any questions while I go through this. I'll try to make this quick. So I've zoomed back out just to give you a little more context. So the Hammonasset River and the Clinton line, I know you're all familiar with this, but Salt Meadow Park across the street, and Dudley Lane here on the left. So the Wellington, I think it's called the Wellington development, is here, this yellow parcel that I just highlighted. And that's the development that's under construction now. And this is Windermere, of course. So I'm going to, I think I may have to stop sharing unless you can you see my plan set now?
No.
Not yet, no.
Okay, I think I have to stop sharing, unfortunately, and reshare. How about that?
Yep. Yes.
Okay, so we prepared the civil engineering plans. We did a topographic survey also of both parcels, and we prepared the plans. And I'm just gonna switch down to what I think is the easiest plan to look at first. This is the site layout plan, and I think it might be easy to look at first because it doesn't have any of the utilities and the grading and that kind of thing on it. So you can see the Hammonasset Package Store parcel to the west here. And you can only see part of the building, but this is the white building on the 1343 parcel to the east, Boston Post Road on the bottom of the sheet, Cottage Road on the top of the sheet, north, kind of straight up and down. So we are creating a new access driveway here. Hopefully you can see my cursor moving. We're planning to create a new access driveway here. Improve this existing connection here to the 1343 parcel to the east, and make a connection to this existing driveway behind, also on the 1343 parcel behind the building. We also are proposing to make a driveway connection here that would connect the rear of the Hammonasset package store parcel to the 1339 parcel. Again, this is the 1339 parcel, and this is the 1341 parcel. Any questions on that so far? Was that clear to everybody?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna go back to the title sheet of the drawing set and zoom in on, just so I don't make a mistake, I'm gonna zoom in on the parking calculations for each parcel. So this is the zoning standard schedule for the 1339 parcel, and these are the parking calculations. And as you can see, if you had the time to read these, the total number of parking spaces for the uses we're proposing is 51, and we're providing 62 on this parcel, on the 1339 parcel. And then if I move down to the schedule for the 1341 parcel, the total number of required spaces is 81, and we're providing 63. So we have an excess, we're providing more spaces on this parcel, and we have a shortage on this parcel. But when you add these up, and in combination with the shared parking agreements that Attorney Beatty mentioned earlier, we feel that we have enough parking. So if I'm doing the math right here, we have 11 extra on this parcel, and we are short 81 minus 63, whatever that is. I'll probably make a mistake if I do the math in my head. So it's 18. So 18 minus 11 is 7 if I'm doing the math right. So that's technically our shortage by the numbers. But again, the shared parking agreement between all 5 parcels and the offset in the timing of some of the uses of the site, we think more than make up for that. Any questions on that? So I'll move then to the major work that'll happen on the site. So in addition to the construction of the driveways and the parking areas, we have building utility services to serve both buildings, on-site subsurface sewage disposal systems to serve both buildings, and on-site stormwater management systems to handle the stormwater from the new parking areas and driveways and sidewalks and the building roofs. So the soils on this site, the published soils, and this is all identified and laid out in our drawing set, but the published soils on this site are Hinckley, which are sands and gravels, and typically have a relatively deep water table. In 2003, about a dozen test pits were excavated on the site, and those test pits generally confirmed the Hinckley soil description. 2 weeks ago or so, we excavated another 8 test pits on the site, and we again confirmed the Hinckley soil description. So we confirmed that the soils are sands and gravels with a relatively deep groundwater table. And as I think we all know, probably this has been a very wet winter, and groundwater levels are relatively high overall today. currently. The topography of these sites are such that the major portion of both sites do not drain off-site. All of the surface water runoff from the major portion of the sites today remains on these two sites and simply infiltrates into the ground. In our proposal, we are doing the same thing. We're trying to mimic the existing hydrology of the site, and we are infiltrating, we're collecting all of the stormwater runoff from the driveways and the parking areas and the both building roofs and all of the sidewalks, and we're directing them to subsurface infiltration systems. That's what this big grid is here and also here. So with the exception of a small portion of this driveway connection and a portion of this outdoor seating area, which both will drain off-site to the east to two existing, one here and one here, existing dry well structures, stormwater infiltration structures. With the exception of those two small areas, all of the stormwater is collected, treated, and directed to subsurface stormwater infiltration systems. So there's no surface discharge off-site of stormwater runoff. When I said treated, what I meant was, I'll zoom in and show you a better picture here, but this is the stormwater infiltration system for the 1341 parcel. There is before stormwater enters the system, it goes through a stormwater treatment structure here. It's a hydrodynamic separator type stormwater treatment structure. And similarly, on this side, same thing. There's another stormwater treatment structure on this side of the infiltration system. So the stormwater there's pre-treatment provided before stormwater runoff enters the subsurface system. And that is true. If I zoom back out, I'll show you the same thing at the other stormwater management system. There's a stormwater treatment structure here. There's only one inlet to this system, so there's only one stormwater treatment structure required. So that's kind of a brief description of the overall stormwater management system. We've designed it in accordance with the guidance in the new Connecticut DEP Stormwater Quality Manual that becomes effective March 30th. But as you probably have seen, most people have begun to design in accordance with those guidelines. So the stormwater management plan for this project complies with the new manual. And we submitted a stormwater management design report that goes along with this set of plans that documents the design and the engineering associated with the stormwater management system. Any questions on stormwater from the commission?
I have one question, just curiosity, what does the pre-treatment system do for water? Right.
So the stormwater treatment structures are, they're called, so there's different types of stormwater treatment structures. These are hydrodynamic separator structures. They're the internal components of the structures are designed such that they remove from the stormwater flow debris and trash, floating in the stormwater. They also remove sediment in the stormwater from the parking lot, and they are and you will see in the stormwater management report that the stormwater treatment structures we chose the type of structure purposefully because they are approved by the Connecticut DOT. They've been tested by an independent testing laboratory to make sure that they can achieve the results required in the Connecticut Stormwater Quality Manual. And they can also store the predicted sediment load from the parking areas, mostly due to winter season, snow and ice control operations. So that's what they do. They pre-treat the stormwater prior to its discharge to the subsurface infiltration systems. There's a detail on the plans for these structures. We included the maintenance and inspection manual for these structures in our stormwater management report. I can show you that if you'd like, but it is included in the report.
Thank you.
Yep. And then I think, so we should probably move to the wastewater. We talked about building utility services, but just briefly. So there's a water main in the Post Road, in Boston Post Road, and it happens to end right about here, right in front of the 1341 site. And there's also a water main in Cottage Road. So we are proposing to serve the 1341 building from the public Connecticut Water Company's public water system from Cottage Road. And we're proposing to serve the 1339 building from the same system, but from the main in the Post Road. And the communications and power utilities, communications being cable TV and telephone, of course, will also come in the same manner for the 1341 building from Cottage and from the 1339 building from the Post Road. We've reached out to the water company and to all the utility companies, made sure that they could serve us, have talked preliminarily about the routes to bring the utilities in. So we're confident that we can serve the two buildings in that way. The only other utility, as you can imagine, is wastewater. And we have 3 on-site wastewater systems. I'm gonna switch plans here. Might be maybe a little bit clearer, I'm not sure, but so for the 1339 building, the subsurface sewage disposal system is here in the rear of the site. There's a large septic tank here, and an effluent sewer that goes out to the leaching field or the disposal field for the wastewater effluent. The main system for the 1341 building is here in the front. In this system, there are 2 separate septic tanks, building sewers leaving the front of the building. And in the rear is the septic system for the restaurant that is planned to be in the eastern part, the right-hand side of the 1341 building. And I'll zoom in a little bit. It requires 2 grease interceptor tanks. That's what these 2 structures are. And then a septic tank before the wastewater effluent goes out to the leaching field, which is here, stretched out along the width of the frontage along Cottage Road. So that's the 3 on-site subsurface disposal systems that'll serve the buildings. We are proposing exterior site lighting, parking lot lighting all around the parking area. I think John Cunningham will probably talk more about this later, but we worked with a lighting company to match the appearance of the poles and the bases and the luminaires that are already on the 2 parcels to the east that are part of the marketplace, and she was able to do that. We submitted an exterior lighting photometric plan for the 2 sites, and we made sure that the lighting meets all the current backlight, uplight, and glare requirements. They're LED luminaires. The color temperature is 3000 Kelvin. And again, I think John Cunningham will probably talk a little more about that. I think he will tell you that there will be some bollard lighting also, possibly for this seating area and also for this outdoor garden terrace area, which I'm sure Bill described between the two buildings. I think I've covered everything. I hope that wasn't too fast, or maybe it wasn't fast enough, but I'd be glad to answer. The only other thing maybe I should tell you is we have these, I'll zoom in a little bit, these areas for waste and recyclable receptacles. There's a larger area here because of the restaurant, another area here, and a third here. So I think I may have missed something, but I think I've covered everything. Be happy to try to answer any questions you might have, or turn it over to the next presenter. I think it might be John Matthews.
Like,
I have a question, Mike Bug. The service entry and the cable TV entry, is that underground or overhead?
Oh, all underground. Sorry, I should have mentioned that. Yep, all underground.
I have a quick question, Mike. Going back to your aerial view of the site, it looks like there's a berm, some kind of berm between the two lots.
There is. It's kind of funny. Yeah. We actually show it on our, I'll just go back to this. We actually show it on our survey. I'll see if I can share it again. Can you see the aerial photo now?
Yes.
Yes.
So yeah, there's an earthen berm here. I'm tracing it, if you can see my cursor. And it's probably 3 feet or a little more high.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's there, but it'll be, of course, graded out and removed.
We hope it's not archaeological.
Oh, I doubt it. I think it's, having been around town, like I'm sure you all have been for a long time, I kind of remember what's happened here. There used to be small cottages on these parcels years ago. And sometime before I was the town engineer, I know the town was involved in having them removed at some point. I don't know why the berm, or how, it's obvious that it was formed by man, but I don't know why it was pushed up like that. It could be, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, it actually could be topsoil. Somebody may have pushed off the topsoil, because this site especially is pretty barren. There's not much topsoil here, so somebody could have pushed up topsoil and taken out some gravel at some point. I'm not sure.
Another question for you on that drawing, right, that pictogram. You said you're gonna have an entryway to the back of the Ham and Acid package store?
Right about here. Yep. We're gonna.
They're giving you permission to do that? Because it looks like they'll lose a couple of parking slots.
Yeah, good point. I should have brought that up. So our plans show there's actually, I've been out here and taken measurements. There's 8 parking spaces here. And our plans show moving all 8 of them to this side of the parking lot where there's no delineated parking spaces. So yes, you're correct. If I go back to the plans, you can see the driveway comes right through here. But we're taking these 8 spaces and kind of flopping them over and putting them on this side. And there's also 1, 2, 3 parallel parking spaces here in the front. And our new driveway will eliminate 2 of them. These spaces do not meet standards. They're too short. They're 4 feet too short, all 3 of them. And they're also mostly located, although you can't tell by the GIS. If I flip back, maybe I should do that. Let me flip back to the plan set. They are actually located in mostly, the most of their width is located in the state highway, within the state highway. Bear with me 1 second, just trying to get back to the plan set. Okay, can you see the plans now?
Yes.
Okay, so if we look at, let me zoom in here. So this horizontal line with the two dashes in it is the highway line. And these are the three spaces, 1, 2, 3. And you can see that the majority of their width, they are actually the majority of the width of the three spaces is located within the highway. Let me switch to the next couple of sheets, which will show the driveway connection. So as you can see, this existing space and this existing space will go away, and it will leave this one parallel space. The commission probably knows this, but the Connecticut DOT has a current policy anyway. They never used to do this. Or they long time ago, they used to meet with us, and we would be able to meet out in the field and discuss the project with them before we submit to planning and zoning. Now, they would rather not look at the plans until we receive local planning and zoning approval. So once we do, one of the first things we have to do is coordinate with the Connecticut DOT, and we'll have to talk about this space. In my experience, it's likely that they will say, remove the space or enter into a license agreement with the state if you really want to keep it. The license agreement process is onerous and time consuming, and I'm guessing that for one parallel space, we might not do that, but that'll get fleshed out when we work through the DOT coordination process. Oh, and here's that area that you mentioned earlier. Here's the new driveway, and see the dashed lines, those are the existing spaces.
Right.
Those are the spaces that get moved over to the other side.
Is the package store in common ownership with the?
They're signatory to the common parking agreement.
Thank you. That explains it.
Right. Yeah, it's one of the 5 parcels that make up the marketplace development. And those cross easements exist.
And they would have the right to use the parking. Mike, if you could highlight the parking area that's going to be constructed closer to the post road in front of 1339.
Yes. So there are actually, let me switch sheets. I'll make it easier for you. You see this little 9 in the circle. So
Yeah.
there's nine parking spaces right here. And here's the Hammonasset Package Store building.
Okay.
Bob Reinhardt, I have a couple of questions. The first one is on the parking. So I didn't catch before that there was a disparity between the number of parking spaces for each building. So I didn't check the drawings, but has there been adequate consideration given for the safe walking back and forth to get the park far from your building? With sidewalks or walkways, or something within the parking lot?
So there's I think I heard you broke up just a little bit for me anyway, but this I think I heard your question though. So this lighter gray area, lighter than the buildings, is all sidewalks. So there are I'll kind of trace, there's sidewalks all along the length of this building and the short length, all the way around this building, there's sidewalks. There's a sidewalk here, and again, sidewalks all the way around this building. And there are accessible sidewalk ramps here, in front of this building, and in front of this building. And for people to be able to, come up the sidewalk ramp and get into the sidewalk network.
Okay, thank you. A couple more questions. One is I saw the plans that the access to and from Cottage Road on the driveway on the far right. I think the driveway on the left is a security only or emergency access only. It's gated.
No, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I may have.
I'm saying in one of the plans, that access point there is gated. Is that correct?
Not anymore. That was an early plan. That as you can see here, we're not proposing any connection to Cottage Road. That was an early plan, and it's my understanding that the fire marshal has indicated that he's not going to require an emergency drive out to Cottage. So that's a very good question. There's no vehicular connections to Cottage Road being proposed.
And that's fine. What about on the right side when you're connecting to the current building, the white column? Yes, there. There is a spot, I think there's a driveway there that goes to Cottage Road.
Yeah, there's
So.
Yeah, if,
I'm sorry, I realize it's drop.
east, yeah, east of the white building.
Okay. Between Cones building. My question is that there's that development that's occurring on Cottage Road, and now this. Parking lot, the plan I looked at was one way, but do we need a traffic study to look at traffic flow of Cottage Road, I assume, next to Boston Post? We keep going all the way up, that's gonna be a clear shortcut for people who live there. So do we need to,
so,
that has been looked at?
so we have we have David Sullivan from SLR Consulting is our consulting traffic engineer on the project. He is still, he's got a little bit more work to do to complete his report, but he has collected, you may have seen it driving by the site. He's been collecting, SLR been collecting traffic data, and they are fairly far along with their report. We made some changes recently to the plans, which have caused him to adjust his report slightly. But he should have his report available to town staff next week. I think he's on here tonight with us. I think I saw him. His name, it might be a little early, not to, to put him on the spot, but it might be a little early to answer traffic questions tonight, but I'll leave that, I'll leave that up to Dave.
That's fine, we can wait till the report, as long as it's coming.
Yep,
Good. Thank
Yep.
you.
you're welcome.
Questions?
Hold on. I have one question it pertains to this, which is also something I'm curious about. I've noticed on a number of plans, when I look at the septic requirements in the leaching fields, that the calculated leaching field is its area. Is typically right up to what the leaching field that's provided. So in this case, I think it's building one, it's like the amount of leaching field provided is 2% the calculated requirement. Is that what you typically do? Is that standard practice? I don't know. I'm not challenging, just asking.
I understood. I think for some reason your voice breaks up a little bit, but I think what you're asking is, I think what you were saying is the calculated flow, the provided leaching field effective leaching area is very close to the required effective leaching area. Is that what you were saying?
Yes.
Yeah. So yes, that is standard practice, and the reason is there are factors of safety in the daily wastewater design flow numbers that generate the required effective leaching area. So to be close with, the design, the provided number being close to the required number is okay in practice. It's common practice, actually. The factor of safety is already there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I had just one question. Mike, this one I think is for you. If you could just explain what the permit process is for the septic system, who the regulatory agency for this one?
Yes. So these septic systems are designed and reviewed and approved and constructed under the regulatory authority of the State of Connecticut Department of Public Health. They have to be reviewed first by the local health department, so the town's health department, and then they are sent up by the town's health department to the State of Connecticut Department of Public Health, who also reviews them and issues, ultimately will issue an approval. So they are again under the regulatory jurisdiction of the State of Connecticut Department of Public Health, and they're designed and constructed in accordance with the requirements of the technical standards for subsurface sewage disposal systems of the Public Health Code, the State Public Health Code. I should say, we've submitted plan review applications to the local health department already, the town's health department, which is the first step in the process.
Thank you. My second question is about the coastal site plan aspects. Are you gonna handle that, Jeff, or is that after the whole presentation?
We can probably do it after. I think we may do it next month.
Okay, got it.
Okay,
Next up.
next up,
John Matthews.
John Matthews.
Thank you.
Thank you, Micah.
My name is John Matthews. I'm an architect with offices at 817 Boston Post Road and a town resident for forever. I've been working on this site for over 20 years. And I did the original application, first two buildings. I actually looked at 4 or 5 other optional approaches, drugstores, gas stations, all sorts of things. But for 20 years, those 2 lots have been vacant. And I think the question about the berm that was there, if you saw the aerial photograph, there were like 20 cottages on there. They were finally demolished, and I think somebody just pushed all the soil over towards the woods. So you see that ridge on here today. So
No arrowheads in there?
So, not to stretch this out, but I just kind of made my little statement about my history with this thing.
Thanks.
And it's I've been doing this for 60 years. I'm trying to retire. This is my swan song. So I have a little handout I'd like to just, each board member, one for Aaron. Bird's eye. Some more. And really, if Aaron, if you could pull the files up.
You want your architectural setup,
Yes.
Jones?
So this is a site plan that's a little easier to see than Mike's because we've got color on it. Okay. That's 1347. The first building was built 2-story, all commercial. 1343's almost a 3-story building that has 8 apartments up top 2 floors. There's a dermatologist in there now. And so 1341 and 1339 and then 1333, which is the package store. And then this is our new driveway that we're putting in. And then that driveway went away because the fire department said they didn't need it. So what we have is 2 3-story buildings, commercial on the first floor. It's about 13,000 feet of commercial total. And then we have 12 2-bedroom luxury condos in the upper floors. They range anywhere from 1,150 square feet to 1,548 square feet. Each one has a balcony that looks out. And we think this is going to be a terrific place for the town. And then this area here, which is where the 2 entrances to the residences are, is going to be developed as a nice courtyard with umbrellas and benches and a little fountain. We haven't gotten that far. I think this is a great thing for the town. It finishes off the east end of town. This has been a snaggletooth for 20 years. And so in terms of the site plan, another thing I wanted to point out, you look at this as a big parking lot and a 3-story building. But these trees right here are very mature Zelkovas. So, looking through here is not like looking at a new shopping center, which has, 2-inch diameter trees sticking up that's 10 feet high. These things are like 30 feet high. They're beautiful trees. So in terms of the building, we can just run through that real quick. And in this little package I gave you, it shows some of the things. So this is just a black and white version. And again, this is a patio that would be serving the 3,000 square foot plus restaurant on this end of the building. And then also what I'd like to point out is we have a loading area here for this retail and particularly the restaurant. And there's also a loading area here for this retail. So let's just, and these are just some, that's a sign we're putting up for the new tenants. And this just shows some bollard lighting and bike racks. And these are the site lights and, tables and chairs. And then we have 2 EV charging stations for each residential area. So this is the first floor of 1339. And I don't know if you could scoot that up a little here, Aaron. Oops. Okay, so in 1339, the post road is on the left. So you have, so this shows like 3 potential tenants. And then in this corner, we have an 800 square foot community room for both buildings. And these are storage cubicles for every unit. And then this is that courtyard, which we'll look at in more detail. And then if we slide that down just a little. And so this is the lobby, the elevator, and then there's 3 units aside. These 2 are the largest ones. They're the 1,548, both floors. And the ones in the back are smaller because of the elevators and the fire stairs, which had to come out. But you can see every unit has a balcony, which is in the second bedroom, which most likely will end up being a den in most of the units. So let's just go on up. And the 3rd floor is the same as the 2nd floor. But then one of the interesting things that we have a mansard roof, but rather than having a flat roof, we make a big swimming pool on top, which is where all the heating and air conditioning equipment goes. So you don't see it at all from the street. Okay, let's just keep moving. So this is an elevation of 1339. This is the side that faces the parking lot. This is a community room. And then you can see the balconies and stuff. So there'll be a lot of activity there, And these units here look out at Salt Meadow Park and Sound, because they're going to be the big ticket items. And this is the post road side. And at the end of the building, we've done a porch that all the tenants can come and sit out on and enjoy the view. And that's true on both ends of the building. And then this is our sort of color scheme. It's a gray color, and we've got like a blue highlight to try to pick up a nautical theme here since we're so close to the water. And that's just the back side. In case we might have an overhead door for one of the retail tenants. We don't know who's going to be there yet. So, those doors may change as we lease the building. Okay, Aaron, let's keep moving. And that's just the black and white version. And then this is 1341. If you could move up just a little bit, Aaron. And this is the entrance in that little courtyard. But then in this corner where we had the community room and 39, we have a fitness room where people can, work out, do yoga and whatever. And then this is set up probably for 2 tenants, even though it could be 3. And then this is the 3,200 square foot restaurant. And then this is a patio that's out here with doors that open out to outdoor.
Can I ask
Yes.
a question? The restaurant, is that going to be just for the residents or will that be on the outside?
We're shopping around to find the right restaurant that wants to come to Madison.
Great, thank you.
And we talked to some of the other restaurant people and actually they're quite positive. I had dinner at Donahue's last night and Jack said, that's great. The more we have here, it's better for all of us.
Absolutely.
So if we go up to the second floor, it's pretty similar, except we don't have that bump that makes the 1,500 square foot units. These are only 1,450. And then the third floor is the same, and the roof is the same with our bathtub for the air conditioning. Okay, let's go. And again, that's just, the elevations, they're pretty much similar. One of the things that if we go back real quick, one of the things that when we met with ACA is that we raised the windows to 6-foot windows because we have 9-foot ceilings. The earlier version had 5'2" windows. And some of the drawings have been changed. The drawings have, but the renderings still show them at 5'2", the big elevations. Okay, let's keep moving. And this is just a bigger sort of blow up. This is like the porch this is the entrance to the condos on 1341. It has a smaller porch. The one for 39 has that bigger porch. And so that just shows some of the details. This is the balconies that face the fronts of the building. So and that's the 5-foot windows. So there's the drawing with the 6-foot windows. Okay, and this is just some sections. So you can see, here's our 45-foot height. This roof comes up and then it drops down. There's all the air conditioners. Nobody sees them except the guy who services them. And we have a stair and stuff going up for
An
that.
elevator.
Yeah. So I think you can, if there's anybody have any questions about that, I mean, it's pretty.
I just have a couple questions. How's the noise going to be having all those units on the roof?
They'll be on sound isolation in their space. There's this much space between that and the ceiling of the units.
So that's how to keep.
So
Because I
that
have
shouldn't
above
be an
me where
issue.
I
We
live,
can
and
put as much
it's very
acoustical
noisy.
insulation as we need and they get put on
That's how you do it.
the right kind of brackets. Okay, next. This is a street shot, which is kind of required. You start on the left. This is the package store. And then this is 1339, 1341, 1343, and then 1347. So you can see this is an interesting street facade. And, even though they're 3-story buildings, a little thing I wanted to show you. It so happens that in the town of Branford, if you drive into New Haven, on the right, you see these white apartments. and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a building in here that's exactly the same size as this building. And the irony is, our mechanical electrical engineer did all the electrical,
Yeah.
and our structural engineer did the structure. This is for Bob Smith, down in Milford. But that's exactly the same size as our building. So, you know, you think of it as a 3-story, it's not that big.
You're in a flood zone here, right?
Right.
Aren't you in a flood zone?
No.
You're not. Okay. I mean, it's good to have all the utilities and everything up on the roof, but I was thinking for the restaurant and everybody, all the commercial
Well, we
properties.
have internal drains and overflow drains, so it shouldn't be a problem. The snow gets up there, goes Joe with the shovel.
John, Jared, technical again. The other question I wanted to ask you, I heard you mention, or maybe it wasn't you, maybe it was Mike, refer to this as luxury condos and then also apartments.
No, that was-
Will they-
He misspoke.
Oh, he did.
Not, it's luxury condos.
Condos, so they will be sold.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we were typically using the term residential units.
Okay,
But somehow.
gotcha.
It's condos.
It's condos. Okay, thank you.
So I don't know if I have anything else in here, Aaron.
No, you have your renderings.
Yes, but they're in here too, if you want to put them up. Yeah, everybody could maybe see them better. So this is an aerial that's made, you know, this is the existing driveway entrance that's there now. There's the white building, 1333. This would set up originally for a drive-in for a bank or something, but that never happened. But the driveway is still there. This is our patio, umbrellas. Probably have to have a little fence around it for the health, for the liquor code and stuff. And so the restaurant is here, and that's the 2 stories of residential, and you can sort of see our bathtub back up in there. And then the parking lot goes on out, and that's the new shared driveway we're constructing. There's a sort of package store in the distance. So let's just go to the next one. And here's a shot kind of from this is the entrance driveway. You can see the 2 lanes coming out, the white building, again, the patio. And then there's this existing fence that goes along. And then you have these trees. Those are actually taken from an actual photograph, I think. So they really do screen this off. So let's go to the next one. And that's just a sort of front view of 1347. There's the patio. So you can just see it in a little closer detail. And then this is the view looking towards the residential courtyard, 1339 on the left. This is the fitness center there. That's the community room there. And then this is a view from that little courtyard in the back. This is the entrance into the 1339. It says apartments, but we didn't want to put condo up there. But and then that's going into 1341. And this is where with John Cunningham, we'll end up doing a really nice courtyard patio. And this has the bigger porch versus the smaller porch. And the reason we couldn't do that here is because of our side yard issues.
John, this would be the view from the parking lot between the building and Cottage Road.
Right.
That's the view that we're looking at is if you're behind the building. between-
Yeah, this is
between the
if you're
building and
sort of
Cottage.
coming in from Cottage Road parking, you know, that's the building on the right, and then that's 1341. All right, I think that's the end of so that's the end of my presentation. Does anyone have any questions about the buildings. We're still working with lack of colors. We originally had a much darker color. These have been lightened up. They're gonna be bringing in real samples to them. Brick,
Okay, good.
siding, shingles, the whole 9 yards.
And anyone else for your presentation?
We have Mr. Cunningham.
Okay, great.
You put up the, I'd go with the colored rendering. Even though it's a little bit older, I think that's the easiest way to work. Good evening, my name is John Cunningham, owner of TEC Landscape Design located at 62 Wall Street in Madison, Connecticut. And a member of ACA, along with Mr. Williams that's here tonight.
I have 5 landscaping plans already.
One should be colored, I think is probably the easiest to show. If not, I can get the.
Yeah, we sent this drawing as a PDF here. Go get your big board, Decker.
No, that's all. Sure. I'll be brief. I think we've covered most of the areas on the property. New building, Cottage Road out back, okay? Boston Post Road down on the bottom. See? As John mentioned, the existing Zelkova out front are staying. There's 4 of them. We're adding one as close as we can get to a large size. It's probably going to be 7 to 8 inch caliper on the corner, so they're all the same varieties. Zelkova is not a native, but it's a good tree. It's been here in the United States for a long time. It's a vase-shaped tree, and it's considered one of the really a medium shade tree. So I think it works well. I put these in 2004. I think it works well along the road. Rest of the larger circles are going to be locust. Okay. And we've taken a bunch of the plant material that was on the original application and pulled that over to here. I've used it quite a bit on Bradley Road and on Wall Street. I'm using hedge maple that are used down there also. It's a small shade tree, but very tolerant of the soils down here. 1, 2, 3. And as John mentioned, there are a couple different outdoor areas. Both buildings will kind of empty onto this courtyard area. You can see this kind of dark green graphic. These are going to be raised planting beds. So if everyone is familiar with what a berm is, they're going to be probably 18 inches above the elevation of the terrace, and it will just roll up. I chose Amelanchier or service berry or shadblow. It's a native tree. It's over in Salt Meadow. That will be the ornamental tree. They'll be in multi-stems. It's an early white flower. There'll be tables and chairs. All the beds will be full of ground cover and perennials, so there won't be really any maintenance on the area. It'll be a nice area for the tenants to walk out and use. As John said, there's 2 loading areas behind this building here. And also, it's not shown on my plan, but this is a loading area behind this building here. 2 different trash areas that Mike Ott brought up. Outdoor seating, which has now been enlarged. A new plan that's on the town record has taken these last 2 parking spaces so that the outdoor eating area will be a little bit larger than it is. It will have a fence around it. We haven't quite decided what the fence will be. My guess is they're going to want a little privacy. It's probably going to be 4 or 5 foot privacy with some type of open top. There'll be tables and chairs out there with umbrellas. What else was I going to bring up? Along Cottage Road, you can see this graphic with no color in it. This is existing vegetation that's along the road. It's not on our property. But we're making a note here. We'd like to remove unwanted material. There are a couple of standing dead trees in that area. There's white pine, there's forsythia, there's a couple of maples that are seeded in. We're probably going to leave those. We're going to add material in any of the holes that once we remove that material kind of come up. If everyone's familiar, if you have large existing trees, they're going to have a large root mass. It's very hard to plant right next to a large tree. So I made a suggestion for different shrub material to go back into there. You know, and if the board or if residents would like, we can easily take some of these circles could be returned to an evergreen piece of material. Would probably have to have permission from the town to plant on town land, which I don't think would be a problem because the existing area that runs down Cottage Road, all the materials not on our property, it's on town property. So it borders our property. I think it makes the most sense to replant in that one area. Okay. Along the road, along Boston Post Road, we're leaving the Zelkova, we're leaving the fence, and we're also adding some inkberry. So there will be some evergreen along Boston Post Road to soften the grills of the cars from Boston Post Road. I usually like to do that, okay? It's not an upright plant, it's more of a mounding plant. It's native once again. I don't really have much else. Oh, I will say one other thing. Mr. Ott mentioned the lighting. We are using a fixture that's extremely close. The fixture that was used on the old, the other parcel is no longer with us. The new fixture is very close, so it's going to look very similar. It's an LED fixture. It's metal halide on the existing thing. We're trying to see the looms of our LED fixture will not be over 3,000. We're trying to see what is the closest to the metal halide that is there. So the illumination looks very close. That's, I think, a really important part of this whole thing. And there will be some bollards. They're going to be full cutoff also on all the, probably in front of some of the buildings and also in the back seating area. Any questions?
What's the dumpster enclosure?
Probably going to be white cedar with a metal galvanized post. Probably left to weather. I can send you a sample. I could bring a sample in for the next meeting if you want. Yes.
John Morgan, there's a house to the left, correct, of the property at the back?
Right here.
That's our,
Mhm.
At our house.
okay.
Okay.
Is there any, plantings or fence or anything?
We didn't propose any. If the neighbor,
6-foot fence.
is it on the site plan?
Yeah.
Okay, I apologize. There's a,
6-foot fence?
along the property line. There's not really enough room to plant, but there is a 6-foot high fence that runs along the property line.
6-foot-high solid fence?
Yes, correct.
And then what about the lighting? I would assume because of the residential part, the lighting will stay on all night?
No, I would doubt that. The fixtures on the buildings themselves, I'm sure would be on some form. I'm going to guess there's going to be security lighting at some point in time in most of the buildings
Sure.
that is on. Our lighting in our parking areas is probably going to go up at some point in time, Janet. Same with our bollards.
I was,
That-
again, wondering.
yes. But remember that the photometrics plan, I do not have it here. I can bring it for the next meeting. There's no wash off the property, and they are all dark sky compliant fixtures, so the light is all pushed back
Oh,
down.
nice.
And they're 12-foot?
Yes, I believe they're 12-foot posts. Okay.
So if I could add one thing, John Matthews, essentially there's a roof running around the first floor ceiling of those buildings. There's going to be soffit lights in that, so the walkways are going to be lit with down lights.
Mhm.
And they can be controlled, where their business hours more on after hours, every third one is on or something. Because there's going to be a lot of pedestrian activity on this
That's why I
side,
wondered if they
so
would
you
stay
don't
on.
want to have it dark.
My guess is the entrances to the buildings might want to be lit, but I think areas along the walkways would probably. Anything else? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
No one else tonight.
Okay, thanks for that presentation so far. It's been a great introduction and overview. Because this hearing will be continued, I just want everybody to know that that's going to happen. We don't have all the information we need tonight, so we're going to propose that we extend this hearing to April. But in the meantime, if there are no other questions from commissioners, I would like to open it up to attendees who are here for this presentation. And also, if you have questions, especially that would be useful for the applicants to hear.
I do. I live at 106 Cottage Road. I live right next door. I have a question.
Can you give your name,
Helen
please?
Basilone. My parents are originally the owners of the package store when it was across the street at the mall station. We sold it, it was moved. So I live right behind it. I have one question. You're gonna be putting a fence between us and the parking lot. Is there any chance to get a fence behind the liquor store since you're gonna be using that as a driveway
Wraps behind the.
all the way around? And is there gonna be any lighting that could possibly shoot into our yard?
No.
It's gonna be, stay dark at night, like. It's good.
Thanks. Any other questions?
Where do you anticipate the parking for this restaurant?
I'm sorry, we can't hear you and we need to know your name and your.
Denise. I'm wondering where you anticipate restaurant parking if you have, first of all, is there gonna be assigned parking for the residents?
Whether there may be some assigned parking for the.
Like, will they have
for the condos, but
particular
all the rest of
spaces?
the parking. All the sites are free for anybody.
And do you anticipate enough parking for the restaurant and the
Yes.
residents?
Yeah, just on the site itself, we're short of like 7 spaces, but we have the right to park on all the other spaces, which could not be.
Hey, if there are no other questions for tonight, can I have a motion to
Is
continue?
there,
Oh, sorry.
did you look on participants as well? I have,
Thank you, Erin. See, we have 2 hands raised. Dan Buckley? You could unmute yourself.
Yeah, hi, my name is Dan Buckley. I live at 103 Cottage Road. And I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to ask questions. And I understand this is going to be continued. I had submitted a letter to, I know I sent it in to Aaron, and I'm not sure who else would get this regarding regarding some concerns we have, and that's cool. So I'm sure it's part of the public record. I also, because I'm not familiar with all the proceedings here, some of these may be part of the ACCA commission as far as their evaluation of the site plan. But I just want to remind people that Cottage Road is primarily a residential street. It has a speed limit of 25 miles an hour. It is a pedestrian pathway for many of the residents of Windermere, as well as the residents on Cottage, Dudley, and River Road that are accessing the wonderful beach that Madison has. So keep that in mind, please, as we look at this kind of development. We support this development because it's good for Madison, but at the same time, a lot of the safeguards that need to be evaluated and considered are really important. One of the things I also don't know if it's within the realm of this commission is I didn't see sidewalks on the facing of the post road. And I do believe that's part of the requirement for any new development. So I want to see how that was being addressed specifically. But other than that, my public comments would be part of what my written submission was. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have someone, AJ, with a hand raised. AJ, if you could unmute.
Yep, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can, thanks.
All right, my name is AJ Miller. I'm at 109 Cottage Road. And I would like to just express some concerns. I feel like the special exception to move to 45 feet in height is not in keeping with the streetscape there. Every other building on that street is 1 or 2 stories, and they're trying to squeeze a 3-story building into this space. It's adding additional cars, it's adding additional people. We've got a lot of other apartments already getting built in this area, and it's adding a lot of traffic and a lot of load to that area of Madison. And I don't think it's actually diversifying Madison that much by concentrating all of the apartments in one single area of the town. I would much rather see apartments built across Madison instead of all bunched up right near us. I also am concerned about the parking. We have 3 small children that are out riding bikes and playing ball in the driveway, and there's already a traffic problem there. Cars already go way too fast on this road and cause a lot of safety concerns. Cars, an additional load of cars, and I understand that the entry is for emergency vehicles only, but in my experience, that eventually wades away, right? And people just start using the entrance as an alternative entrance. That will bring additional cars and additional trouble to the area without any additional traffic work being done on the street. Makes me concerned that the town's not going to be able to meet the needs of the community around there. Another resident had said earlier, this is a mainly residential area. There's families, there's kids out and about. There's elderly people walking up and down the street. I'm really concerned about that. And I'm also concerned about the way that they've set up the back of the property. They're using white plastic fencing instead of using natural tree borders like we saw at the Dowler properties down the street, where they were able to separate the buildings on Route 1 from Cottage Road by using greenery, which spoke much better to the residential nature of the space. The last thing I'll say is that if there's a provision for lighting for the spaces, that we add a regulation that they must be shut off by 8 p.m. or dusk, whichever is appropriate for the commission, because we see this get violated by other buildings in the area, and it does introduce a lot of light pollution for the residential neighbors there. That's all I have to say.
Well, the driveway coming from Cottage Road has been eliminated completely.
Other than the existing driveway. We're not adding another driveway.
Okay, Madam Chair. Dan has his hand raised again, and I don't know if it's by accident or if
Buckley,
he
did you
forgot to.
not
Oh, he
turn up
did.
your
He
hand?
turned, okay.
Okay, good.
It was by accident. Wasn't sure if he forgot to say something.
Great, okay. Well,
And one other question.
sorry, let's have someone else first, I think. Yeah. In the back, yeah.
I don't have a question, but I have a comment.
Yes.
John Mathers, 58 Bishop Lane. I just wanted to say that I think this is a very attractive development for the gateway to our town. I think it takes an existing asymmetrical development and finishes it the way it was originally intended. I think the housing is much needed in our town. And I also welcome the 6 new businesses, especially the restaurant. Because when we all want to go out to restaurants, where do we end up going? We go to Guilford or Clinton, right? So they are or beyond. So this would be a really nice, attractive, valuable addition to the town of Madison. I just wanted to compliment the architect on the attractive nature and the developer for putting the additional cost into making attractive buildings. Because all too often today, we see new developments, they're done as inexpensively as they possibly can. They're not very good looking, but this fits the nature of our town as well. Thank you.
Yes. Did you have one more?
And one more question.
Okay.
If this whole plan goes through, is there any assurance we can get from the town that you'll finally pave our road? Because all this construction is destroying our road.
On Cottage
If
Road.
we're gonna have more traffic, it needs to be paved once and for all.
It's not really up to planning and zoning, but I think that the
We
town
can-
prioritizes the road
Yes,
works.
'cause this road is an accident. I've lived there for over 50 years on Cottage Road. It's a mess.
I bike on it. I
And it's
know-
only
I
gonna
know
get
every
worse. It just
pothole.
goes.
Yeah.
It's fact.
Okay, thanks for that comment. All right, I think if we can move on, then we've got 2 more public hearings tonight and then other agenda items. So could I have a motion to continue this public hearing until our April 18th, 2024?
So
Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, great. We look forward
Thank
to
you
more
very much.
information. Thank you, everyone. Yeah. So next on our agenda is 24-08. This is 885 Boston Post Road.
My name's Chris Basil. Yeah, David. Son.
Oh, his brother.
Your brother.
Yeah.
We just need to help.
Yeah, take, maybe I just take, start with the first one.
No.
Here's the new one that I sent you just for ACA. No, I haven't. That I emailed you last Friday.
3-7.
No.
They.
Last Friday.
Oh, we'll have to double check.
14, 15.
Yes, last Friday, no. Is
We
it-
have homework to do before the next.
Yeah.
March 15th.
Right.
Yeah.
ACA revision.
All right, moving along, could I have a motion to open the public hearing for 24-08, 885 Boston Post Road? This is a special exception. permit application. Second. Gentleman Morgan, and any further discussion? All in favor? Right, we're open. Okay, thank you. 885 Boston Post Road.
Good evening. My name's Wayne Garrett. I'm an architect. My office is located at 291 Whitney Avenue in New Haven. This project was before you and approved by you just about a year ago, as a matter of fact. And it was well received, and we appreciated everything in the comments made by you then. And we actually brought the project through construction drawing. We finished the construction documents in August. They went out to bid. Bids were received in September. They were actually quite favorable. But for one reason or another, the owner developer of the project decided not to proceed with his plans and construction and began to market the property. So perhaps most of you have seen the sign that was on there for sale. So not long ago, about 2 months ago, Mr. Dow, owner of Amity Physical Therapy, went into contract as an option to purchase the property and to use it as a physical therapy office project as opposed to the restaurant and apartments. The office use is a permitted use as of right. We haven't changed very much to the project. This is really a very, very minor modification to what we initially had. The two changes actually are that if you recall, I'm not sure how much of the board was here last year, but if you recall, good. Because of the restaurant and the parking arrangement, because we had loading in this area here, we had the access for the accessibility for the building was via an elevator. It was only an elevator that literally went up a couple feet from grade up to the first floor. And then it also serviced the basement because as part of the restaurant concept, the basement was going to be the kitchen area for the project. It didn't service the apartments though. It stopped at the first floor. But now that we don't have the loading space here, we have an opportunity. I don't know, can we go to the first floor plan? Thanks. There we go. We have an opportunity to introduce a ramp for accessibility versus an elevator, far less costly to construct. But it's not just a wooden ramp, it's actually the facade of this ramp that faces the parking lot and any of the residences behind it is actually stone granite to match the foundation of the building. The ramp would come up to the same entry that we had from last year. That's about the only change that we have to that particular elevation. Except that the trash enclosure moved over ever so slightly, but it's still the same trash enclosure that we have. If you remember, along the front, there was a porch for the building. We wanted to capture, the owner would like to capture that space for his offices and for his PT uses. But we had a very successful meeting with ACA last week who approved this. One of the suggestions was to create a doorway at this area here that's set back anyway at the second floor level. So we've changed the plan to reflect this doorway here. And there's still, though, like the porch, there's still a reveal along Route 1 there with the same columns and architectural features and details that we had before. That is essentially the scope of the project and the modifications that we're presenting to you this evening.
I'm really glad to see that door because I looked at it and I thought, well, you know, you kind of turned the building around and turned your back to the sidewalk and this pedestrian area of the downtown village district. So it's great to see that, that you were able to make that change.
Maybe we can go to the front elevation, perhaps. I guess it's the south elevation. Yes, so this is the door here. So actually, this entire area is identical to what we had last year. The only difference is now that the door is over in this area here. This door is set back approximately 3 feet from the column line. And this area on the second floor is set back 6 feet, which it was last time as well.
You're eliminating the apartments.
No apartment.
No apartments, yeah. I mean, my first reaction seeing this new proposal was that it's much more low impact. And I even wanted to ask if you considered saving the historic structure.
The historic structure, even last year, has totally deteriorated. It's structurally compromised to where it would be impossible to save, and because of the low ceiling heights and things of that nature. But the whole concept of this building was obviously to reflect not only that, but the rest of the
I
streetscape.
drove there today just to have a look and saw that every other building is Greek revival.
Right.
And
That's right.
literally, but you know, and they all face the street, obviously, they all have entrances from the street, so I was concerned about that. And
But-
when we approved the demolition previously, you know, it was for a much different use with the restaurant and the 2 apartments, and, you know, I thought, well, okay, you can't possibly salvage the building or do adaptive reuse for such a change, but I wondered if you could for something like, it looks like
It
offices.
doesn't really meet the code. And really, one day last year, before we appeared before you, I ventured up those stairs to the roof, and that's as far as I went. Because,
I mean,
I can assure you
To be
it's-
gutted and redone,
but in our specifications, when we produce the construction drawings, we are, part of our specifications included, first of all, hopefully retaining that existing fan window that's in the gable and to reuse it. I've also written in the specification to retain the existing foundation stones. And we're reusing them, if you recall, on our landscape plan for the curbing of the planting areas.
I remember.
And in addition, any interior doors or things of that nature that we find that we think that we could salvage and reuse, we will.
Okay.
So
Thanks, I appreciate that.
just as a little aside, I know other people are waiting for presentations, but
Any other questions?
I remember the Elizabeth Cafe, and it was rickety.
It was charming.
Charming, but it was rickety.
Any other questions from the Senate? All right. Any questions or comments from the public? Here. Is there a hand up? Sorry, am I not seeing? someone?
Online. Ron Clark has his hand raised.
Okay, oh, sorry, I can't scroll down to them. There it is. Oh, you got thumbed up. Okay, we have Ron Clark. And
Good evening, everybody. My name is Ron Clark. I live at 6 Everett Lane, which is the abutter directly to the north. And on face value, I think this is not a bad alternative to what had been proposed. However, I have a couple of questions. Number one is in a butter. I received my certified letter notice, which consisted of a copy of the full agenda for the meeting. No cover letter, no detail, no information. And since I previously served on the commission, I was able to ferret out what was going on. But I would like to ask Mr. Garrick why no other information was provided other than the entire agenda for the meeting and how people were supposed to figure out what it was about.
I believe we mailed the legal notice to everybody. Not the
Not
agenda,
legal-
we mailed the legal notice to everybody.
Oh, okay. With no other information, no cover letter. And I'm wondering if that may have, left it up to others to decide what it was about or for. And the other thing I was wondering about is why weren't all of the abutters notified?
Well, as far as I'm aware, I notified all the required abutters because I used the exact same list as last year. Last year, the list consisted of 15 abutters. I was provided the list by the town, by the way. And I sent out the same 15 notices this year, again.
I served on the commission, so I looked into it a little bit, lack of information. I'm not trying to give you a hard time, but I noticed that the abutters at 875, and there are 3 of them, Boston Post Road, were not notified. I see that the Liberty Square ownership, which is next to that building, were not notified, and I'm wondering the reason why.
I wish I had an explanation for you, other than the fact that I utilized the exact same list of abutters from 2023 for this meeting, and that we didn't have an issue at that meeting, and the project was approved. So if somehow there needs to be some form of corrective action, we have no problem taking care of that. That's for sure. But there's nothing certainly intentional.
No,
The list was the list that we had received.
From a couple of years ago, I understand.
No, from last 2023, not a couple of years ago. Yeah.
So it may be incorrect. Okay. And those people may not have an opportunity to comment because they don't know, and that's another issue. I think that the one thing that, and I overlooked the restaurant from the rear. I'm on the north side, and I think if you remember back in whenever it was when the restaurant was proposed, parking was an issue. And I'm looking at your parking plan, and this is a little bit out of my lane because I'm only in a butter, but it seems to me that proposing a rehab facility like that is a medical use, which is an entirely different requirement for example, handicap parking. You have one space, and I think for medical use requires significantly more than that. Could you comment?
Well, the parking, I don't think is an issue because it was approved by Zoning Board of Appeals in December of 2022. The ZBA approval runs with the land, regardless of the use. But according to the state of Connecticut Building Code, for the first 25 spaces, one is required to have one accessible handicap space, which must be a van accessible handicap space. That's all I can tell you.
I question that only because it's for medical use, and I think that is a different set of rules that apply. And I also point out that you were granted the variance for restaurant use, and if I remember correctly, part of the justification was, at least from one commissioner, that people could park at Scranton Library and walk down and have a nice stroll on their way back and forth to dinner, which certainly isn't the situation for a rehabilitative type facility. And the reason I point this out is there were huge problems there that existed before with parking between the dentist to the east side and the other building with the hairdresser to the west. And with the restaurant, you're dealing with parking during the evenings, on weekends when they're closed. And I would just respectfully ask the commission to maybe take a deeper look into this, much as they did for the previous application, about parking, shared parking, and making sure it's adequate, because I've overheard many over the years, many an argument, conversations, tow trucks, arguments over my fence about parking problems. And although it may have satisfied the needs for a restaurant, I don't think that an operation or a business like a physical rehab facility operates on weekends or at nights. So I just respectfully ask the commission to take a deep dive into that and make sure that it's adequately appreciated. In addition, there's some development that's proposed across the street, and that will add to it. There's a parking problem that exists anyway, and to just make sure that this is well being taken care of and shepherded, I think makes a great deal of sense. So I'll leave it at that.
You know, I'm not an attorney, so I don't think I would have gotten into law school. But that being said, once a variance is granted and it's recorded on the land records, it runs with the land. And the parking requirements for this particular piece of property is 12 spaces. And in fact, if one does a parking calculation, if you remember that the variance, the time to discuss this, by the way, was at the Zoning Board of Appeals, but the variance that was granted us relief for 7 parking spaces. If one were to look at this office use, okay, which is what it falls under in terms of the regulations, we are only short, if you want to call it that, though the issue is moot, 2 spaces, not 7 spaces. So actually, this proposed use represents a less intensive use for the property. If anything, the couple of times that I've been there, I know the neighbors, and there can be certainly some discussions with Mr. Dow, the potential new owner. But when I, let's say, installed the sign there on the building, or a couple of times I've been by there in recent months, most of the adjacent businesses use this parking lot as well as their own. So I'm sure that there's ample opportunity for all 3 owners that seem to have this common parking area to work out some sort of arrangement of who parks where and who parks when. I can tell you, though, Mr. Dow's operation, his physical therapy, is very low in terms of intensity. There are usually only 1 or 2 people there at a time, plus his staff. So the parking lot and the use of the parking spaces, I'm sure can be worked out at some point in time between the owners of the properties and those who made comments at last year's meeting, I believe.
And Wayne, correct me if I'm wrong, but last year, I believe it was a 5,900 square foot structure that was approved.
Correct.
And now it's been reduced to 3884 square
Correct,
feet.
because the basement is
So
now
it's already
purely storage.
Smaller and, you know,
Yes.
low impact, I mean, same footprint generally.
Same footprint, but there's no basement use.
Yeah.
Yes, the basement we included as part of the square footage because it was being utilized as
Used for the
kitchen and
restaurant, yeah.
restaurant office.
And it, as I understand, as you said, this is offices and then, you know, a few patients at a time during the
Correct.
day, nothing at night. So I think for
Right.
the butters, it would be an improvement.
I
But
think so. I think you're correct, but,
No weekends.
and there's no weekend use either.
yeah,
So maybe that will free up spaces. Sure, Mr. Dow, that will be able to free up spaces for perhaps the salon next door.
I think so.
Okay.
Well,
I wanted to be correct, but I mean, that will free up spaces potentially on the weekends for others who frequent that area in terms of taking part of the services that are offered along that area of Route 1.
Well, I appreciate the chairman testifying on your behalf. However, I'd point out, but I would point out, and I just submit this to the commission for their consideration, that on the weekends, those businesses are closed. It is during the week and normal business hours, which you run all three businesses and may create a problem. And I just, add that, for discussion. Again, I'm not going to try and take a position on it. I just pointed out and hope the commission takes that as seriously as they did the parking on the previous application to ferret it out and reach the right conclusion. But I must disagree. This is not office use. This is medical use, and that's a different kettle of fish.
You're right.
That's it. Thank you for your time. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Could I follow up on your square footage? Your plans, Wayne, your maximum floor area says proposed 1740.
That's the first floor.
So your total square footage is 34.
Did I get that? I think I got that.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm not advocating for you, just to clarify.
No, I understand that.
I thought it was interesting, and when I was reviewing, the change from one use to another use, which is what we're really here to consider. The building is pretty much the same, only it's even better than what
It's less intense.
plan that was first submitted, so having that front.
And I
door.
know this entire commission understands that once a variance is granted, it runs with the land. I mean, even if the restaurant opened next year and then it failed and
Yeah.
some other use went into that space, the parking is the parking.
What's on the second floor?
Office space.
There's a more open area.
It's an open office.
Yeah.
There's open office, there's one private office, and there's a break room for the staff.
The one thing I don't know if it helps, but in my profession, open spaces make more sense. Yes, a private example, so obviously the bars are the rest of it, like equipment or areas to move. So the fit outs are, again, much less intensive, not as disruptive. And the only thing I will add, but I understand the concern with neighbors. I have 5 offices for which I already own the real estate in other towns, and we do have neighbors. And it's my largest one, Ghetto Crossing in this area. I mean, it's really imperative for me when I go to any town to integrate, right? It'd be great to be friendly neighbors, work out something that works well for the town, trying to add to the town, serve the town, right? So I don't see that being an issue.
Would you identify yourself?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mike Dow.
I mean, we're disappointed to lose a restaurant, but we've made all new PTs.
I was thinking the same thing.
And it's, I don't know, many people have probably had PT, but these are episodic, short-term stays, they're not long appointments, people are in and out. So it's not as if this is a satellite location for me. It's not something, oh, they're gonna have, 60 people at once. It doesn't work.
And it's by appointment.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, about how many people will you have at once?
So I anticipate no more than 1 to 2 therapists working there at all capacity wise, so you're probably seeing about 1 to 2 people per hour at best. So I would think with staff initially, depending on growth, of course, that's obviously dictated by volume. You probably have no more than 60 people physically in the building at one time. Before the shift, they leave and else comes in. Our current business hours are 7:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. Last appointment at 6. No week.
Thank you. Any other questions? Any other questions from the audience, or I don't think anybody zooming with questions? No other questions, then could I have a motion to close the public hearing and move to deliberation?
Thank you very much.
Second. Bob Hunter, further discussion before we move to deliberation? All right, all in favor? The hearing is closed, and the other thoughts, questions, comments? Ron raised good concerns, but I think we have actually considered them a year ago and reconsidered them in the current context of the change in use of the building. Thoughts?
What was the restaurant, the number of seats or tables? Was it like 32?
44 seat. Well, the old ones.
Yeah, actually, I don't know.
No.
I don't have that. I don't know if I have that information. I can from the previous application.
We just closed the hearing.
And we've closed the public hearing. Yes, we can't take any more questions.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's in the notes, so.
Well, I guess my point is, we approved something that might have included, let's say, 30 customers in a restaurant. Now we're talking about approving something that might have 10 patients.
It seems to be a less impactful, lower use. And it's by day as opposed to by night, or by day and night, ending at 7 p.m.
There was a concern about trash being thrown out at 10 o'clock. at night.
Yeah, or
That goes-
deliveries at all hours.
Deliveries at 5 o'clock.
We moved, in fact, I think we moved the trash receptacle to try to please the abutters.
Concerns were all related to the intensity of use.
Yeah, the intensity.
This has 12 spaces now. Current plan.
That's correct.
Okay.
And there's a part-
Connoisseur requiring a food truck. That'd be a compromise. I'm not serious.
We get hungry too.
I'm not serious.
We get hungry too.
I'm joking.
But I think with the parking, the concern that was raised with parking, I'm not sure. I understand the concern, but I'm not sure it's particularly relevant, given that downscales the number of people that will be in the building, we still have 12 spots, probably more spots that will be required in the foreseeable future. Grow enough and have to figure that out. So, I think it's fine.
Any other comments? Erin, any comments? We can move to a motion. We have a draft resolution. Mike Bogdos made a motion to propose the draft resolution. Do I need a second first? Yeah, we have Jeff second. Any further discussion? Motion as.
Second.
No, we just said Jeff seconded too.
Okay. Following draft resolution is offered. The Madison Planning and Zoning Commission approves application number 24-08885, Boston Post Road, map 39, lot 21, zone D. Owner applicant Dow Enterprises LLC, downtown village district, major alteration special exception permit. Modification for section 6.2.2.2 and 6.2.4 to demolish existing mixed-use building and construct a new two-story office building with on-site parking and associated site improvements as shown on subsurface sewage disposal plan set by Summerhill Civil Engineers and Land Surveyors, DC, sheets 1 through 3 dated February 15, 2024, site lighting plan 885 BPR by General Drafting and Design Incorporated dated 2/16/24. Landscape plan 885 Boston Post Road by Wolf Tree Landscape Architects dated revised 2/16/24. Architectural drawings by Wayne Garrett, AIA 885 BPR sheets 1 through 6 dated 2/16/23 with the following conditions. One, that the zoning enforcement officer be notified at least 48 hours prior to commencement of any regulated activity. Two, 6 feet tall temporary fences shall be installed along the perimeter of the construction area prior to any site disturbance. Three, that all erosion and sedimentation controls be installed prior to any site disturbance and be maintained for the duration of construction activities and until the site is sufficiently stabilized to the satisfaction of the zoning enforcement officer. Four, the subsurface stormwater system shall be inspected by the design engineer during construction to verify consistency with the approved plans. Five, an as-built survey of the stormwater system component shall be submitted to the commission with written verification from a licensed engineer that the system was constructed in accordance with the approved design plans. The submittal shall be completed prior to the issuance of a final certificate of zoning compliance. Six, a condensed inspection and maintenance chart shall be prepared by the design engineer identifying the inspection, management, and maintenance frequency required for each component of the stormwater treatment system. This chart shall be submitted to the zoning officer for review prior to the issuance of a final certificate of zoning compliance. And seven, the applicant shall coordinate and obtain necessary approvals for paver sidewalk installation priority activities within the right of way. In the event that changes to the approved plans are required as a result of other agency permitting to support the proposed activity, the Madison Planning and Zoning Commission reserves the right to review said changes and may require modification of this approval. This approval is made based upon the finding that the proposed use is permitted use in the district and that the standards, prerequisites, and conditions specified by the regulations have been met. The public convenience and welfare will be substantially served, and the appropriate use of neighboring properties will not be substantially or permanently injured. The proposed use is in accordance with the comprehensive plan. The effective date of this approval is April 4th, 2024. And upon filing of certificate of special exception modification on the land.
Jim, so that's the approval conditions record. Second. Further discussion. Oh, sorry, that would be
John.
John Morgan. Any further discussion for the approval of the motion as read by Jim? On favor?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to our next agenda item. Madison Planning and Zoning Commission proposed regulation text amendment to sections 3.3B and 19 to comply with Public Act 23-142, family child care homes and group child care homes. And I just want to say that, Aaron, I'm going to turn it over to you, but first I just want to say that at our last regional planning meeting last week, 5 of these came up, so this is the time. All of them were approved by the regional.
It's time to get this one.
And in fact, our language, I think, was the cleanest and simplest because our regulations, what was already in our regulations did not need to be changed drastically. Okay, Aaron.
One line.
Does this go over to you?
Sure. Briefly, very briefly, give you a synopsis of what the zoning amendment is proposed. As Madam Chair indicated, Public Act 23-142 made changes to the statutes requiring that no zoning regulation shall treat any family child care home or group child care home located in a residence and licensed by the Office of Early Childhood pursuant to Chapter 368A in a manner different from a single family or multifamily dwelling, and that zoning regulations shall not prohibit the operation in a residential zone of any family child care home or group child care home located in a residence or require any special zoning permit or special zoning exception for such operation. And many municipalities were made aware of this change in statutes when letters from Office of Policy and Management sent certification forms to the CEOs of each municipality in the state, asking them to verify that our zoning regulations are in compliance, in which we realized they were not. So we signed a non-compliance certificate indicating that we would review and update our regulations early this year to become compliant. And so those changes are fairly simple. Section 3.3, which is our residence zone, currently allows through zoning permit, which is an as of right permit use, accessory uses when carried on by a resident of the premises. We will be changing section 3.3B to now read family or group childcare home that complies with the standards set forth by the Connecticut Office of Early Childhood. So that would treat all of those childcare homes consistent with a single family dwelling. And then further in section 19, which is our definition section, we did have language that defines the specific commercial daycare center. And the last line of that is an exemption that a daycare center includes child daycare center as defined in section 19A-77 of the Connecticut General Statutes, but does not include it said family daycare home. And our language is changing that to exclude a family childcare home or a group childcare home as defined in said section. And so that is just a few lines, but now we'll be able to report that we will be in compliance.
Check. Any questions? Comments?
None.
Questions from the public?
Yeah.
I don't see any hands raised. Could I have a motion to approve it? And then you need to read the draft resolution if you would.
I would.
just-
Draft resolution voted that the Madison Planning and Zoning Commission adopt the proposed regulation text amendment associated with sections 3.3B and 19 as published to comply with Public Act 23-142. The effective date of this amendment shall be April 19th, 2024.
Have a second? Any further discussion? In favor? Aye. Good. All right, so we'll close the public hearings. Do I need a motion for that? No. And move on to our pending applications. The first on the list is 24-0437 Road, Unit 3. Thank you for your patience.
Good evening, members of the commission. My name is Matthew Williams. My office is Williams Architects in Madison, 897 Boston Post Road. I don't have a really flashy presentation. This is not a flashy project. It's simple and straightforward. So what this is an improvement to an existing home, and it's an expansion of an existing second story. So the original house has only a partially built, so I want to fill the rest of it in. Okay. Because the existing structure is within 25 feet of the coastal resource, that being tidal wetland, we were required by regulation to file a CAM application, and that's what we're going to ask for is approval of that CAM application. The state sent a review checklist out, a narrative or letter, which they only do when they take no exceptions. There isn't any site work proposed, within the scope of this. So we put a sill fence in anyway, for whatever reason, things that might fall on the ground. However, there's no disturbance or expansion of footprint or anything. So what we're hoping you can do is if you have any questions, I can show you more information. If you'd like me to walk you through the plans and drawings, I can do that.
Quick question, is it the same number of bedrooms?
Yes.
Same bedroom, same bathroom.
Same bedroom, same,
We got one more bathroom.
and so the septic would remain as it
Yes,
is?
all that stays as existing.
By regulation.
Any questions? It's a very strange house, I've seen it.
Yes, it is.
So it'll be, I think that will be
It's going to be much better.
much better. There's a cluster road that sticks right out of the marsh.
Yeah.
So,
This one's actually further away from the marsh than some of the other ones.
Is this the one that
There's-
just went on the market?
No, Yeah, it was purchased 8, 9 months ago.
Oh, okay, yeah, I remember when it came up.
Okay, yep, you have the review from Jason Hale from Deep indicating, as Matt had said, no adverse impacts to coastal resources.
Okay, have a draft resolution. Aaron, someone like to do, make a motion? Read it then, right? Yes.
Voted that the Madison Planning and Zoning Commission approved application number 24-04, 37 and Road, Unit 3, map 19, lot 1, zone R5. Owner Michael P. and Roxanne K. Cohen, applicant Matthew Williams. Coastal site plan application for second floor addition within 25 feet of coastal resource as shown on plan sheet SD-147 road indicated by Williams Architects dated 2/1/24 with the following conditions. Zoning, number 1, zoning enforcement officer be notified at least 48 hours prior to the commencement of any regulated activity. Number 2, that all erosion and sedimentation controls be installed prior to any site disturbance and be maintained for the duration of construction activities and until the site is sufficiently stabilized to the satisfaction of zoning enforcement. In the event that changes to the approved plans are required as a result of other agency permitting to support the proposed activity, Madison Planning and Zoning Commission reserves the right to review said changes and may require modifications. This approval is made based upon the findings that the proposed use is a permitted use in the district and standards, requisites, and conditions specified by the regulations have been met. The commission further finds the proposal consistent with all applicable goals and policies in the Coastal Management Act and Section 25 of the Madison zoning regulations. The applicant's effort to maintain adequate soil and erosion controls during construction activities reduce potential impacts to on-site and adjacent coastal resources. The effective date of this approval is April 4th, 2020.
John, have a second? Mr. Walker, any further discussion? All in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, we have 24-05, another coastal site plan application and site plan modification for the 64 Surf Club Road. Second.
That's me. And you can bring up Ken Gannon.
He's coming. Just did, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Good evening. Lost you guys there for a second. Let me just start my video real quick. Good evening. I'm Ken Gannon, professional engineer with Stanley Consulting Services.
Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me?
No, it sounds really far away.
Can't see you. Looks like you're in a witness protection program.
I know. I don't know why. It looks so terrible here. Let me try to take my headphones out. Is that better?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I got to crank up my volume a little bit here.
Can you screen share, Kent, or do you want me to?
I can do it. Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine. Let me do that real quick. Good evening. Again, I'm Kent Gannon, professional engineer with Stantec Consulting Services. We have offices located across the country, but I work out of the New Haven office located at 55 Church Street. We're here in front of you to present our application for the reconstruction of the youth football field at the Exchange complex at the Surf Club, and also coastal site plan application review. The project's pretty simple. It proposes to replace the damaged natural turf youth football field with a new sodded turf football field In addition, there's some irrigation improvements. This section of Exchange Field Complex is currently not irrigated, so it'll include the again, the installation of a new irrigation system to help protect the investment of the town for producing a new sod field. One of the other objections I'm sorry, one of the goals of the project is to rework the grading. If you were to visit the site, you'd notice there's a bunch of small dips and valleys in the field, which prohibits stormwater runoff from leaving the field. So you've got puddles on the field, which leads to some turf die off and some muddy areas, and it's a pretty well used field. So just some non-ideal turf conditions. So we're hoping to repair a lot of that minor grading with just smoothing the field out. And you can see some of the contours here, which accomplish that. In addition, we've got some sports lighting, which is not part of this project, but it's shown here just to add some context to the plan. So what we are proposing is to install some empty conduit throughout the field so that in the future, if the town ever were to come back and install lighting, they had the conduit there and they wouldn't need to disturb the field again. And we've shown the striping here on this plan for the football field, just to add some context. So it kind of gives you an idea of where we sit here. The hatched area would be the new sod, and really minimal work beyond that, just some conduit and some irrigation work out in this. I can flip to the irrigation plan. This plan will show you, give you an idea where the irrigation heads are located. The irrigation building is an existing building located here within the park. So there'll be, or sorry, right here within the park. There'll be some work within the irrigation building to upgrade some of the equipment in there, new irrigation controllers, some other equipment like that. But I don't know if Austin, you have anything else to add, but I'd open it up to any questions.
No, I think Ken's covered it pretty well.
Where's the rock?
It's
Can
there.
you see it?
It's there, yeah. It's right outside that small building.
It's pretty close to the baseball, right?
The rock, well, it's way past the third baseline, heading towards the golf course.
What was the question, Austin? Sorry, I couldn't hear.
There's a big rock by the irrigation house.
That ledge, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, so these areas are some of the rock hoops.
So
Rock outcroppings.
Pick up on Kent's presentation. This also required a regulated activity permit from the Inland Wetlands Agency. They did act at their March meeting. And again, this is a site plan modification and a coastal site plan before you. We did receive a checklist back from DEEP as well, identifying the on-site and adjacent coastal resources and basically stating that with adequate ENS controls, no anticipated adverse impacts. Great.
Great, right.
Okay, any further questions? Not, could I have a motion for approval? And we can read as drafted by Aaron.
Voted that the Madison Planning and Zoning Commission approve application number 24-05. CSP 64 Circular Road, map 36 lot 50, zone R2, owner applicant Town of Madison, site plan modification application, and coastal site plan application for reconstruction of the natural turf football field area, the exchange field complex, as shown on application documents for the following conditions. 1, zoning enforcement officer shall be notified at least 48 hours prior to commencement of any regulated activity. 2, at all times during site work and until soil areas are stabilized, the applicant shall install and maintain erosion, sediment control measures, such as fabric filter fence, stake tail bales, or other measures deemed necessary by the zoning enforcement officer to prevent erosion and sedimentation. In the event that changes to the approved plans are required as a result of other agency permitting proposed activity, Madison Planning and Zoning Commission reserves the right to review said changes may require modification of this approval. This approval is made based on the findings that the proposed use is permitted use in the district, that the standards, prerequisites, and conditions specified by the regulations have been met. The commission further finds the proposal consistent with all applicable goals and policies of the Coastal Management Act and Section 25 of the Madison zoning regulations. The applicant's effort to maintain adequate soil and erosion controls during construction activities reduce potential impacts to on-site and adjacent coastal resources. The effective date of this approval is April 4th, 2024.
Second? Section? All in favor of approval, as read? Jeff, do you want to vote?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Ken.
Thank you.
Thanks, Austin.
Thank you.
Okay, moving along to 24-07, 63 Middle Beach Road West. And Aaron, I don't know if you want to give any backup information, or are you the owners? You can
Yes.
provide that. Welcome, thank you.
Go ahead. I can
Okay.
screen share and
That'd be great.
then we'll.
My name's Earl Tucker. I'm here with my wife, Mary, the owners of 63 Middle Beach Road West. We've lived in Madison for 11 years at this address. Unfortunately, with new FEMA regulations, new building codes, insurance companies, et cetera, our beautiful 110-year-old house, you kind of get forced into either tearing it down or rebuilding and lifting and everything else down along the shoreline. So that's what we ended up having to do. So in January 11th of 22, we received zoning approval to demo our old house and rebuild. In September 27th of 22, we were issued a building permit after an extensive review. So for over the next year, we constructed our new house and we followed all the town inspections. We are currently applying for a CO at this stage. And it wasn't until December 21st of 23 that we received an email from the town requesting a grading plan. And again, the house was almost completed. So we immediately came and met with the town. We immediately hired a surveyor. We immediately as-builted what we had and submitted the plan back to the town. I asked the commission to please note that we live on very small, narrow lots down in Middle Beach West. I'm sure you know this. We're on top of each other. And being good neighbors, we met with all our neighbors and we asked them, do you have a problem with putting up a fence or a small accent wall on each side? The neighbors overwhelmingly agreed with what we had proposed to them as far as putting up, we're calling them small decorative accent walls. You know, we really wanted them there to accent the new house. We wanted them to create some privacy and some separation. We're on top of each other down there, a demarcation line, if you will. And again, a fence to everybody was really not a non-starter. So I ask you to just keep this in context, the issue at hand, and I'd like to submit these couple photographs to the commission that show the walls that we're talking about. And
They're how high? They're just a few feet high or less, right?
that they are, and they're less than 18 inches in separation, which is shown on the as-built here. So keeping that in mind, there's in the photographs, you can see there's a very narrow strip of land that is on each side of our house, and call it a narrow strip of grass. So these walls do help us create more of a level walking platform versus no walls, you're walking on a 30-degree slope. So again, that's all part of living down on this narrow patch of land that we have. It was never our intent to break any rules or do, and I stressed this to Erin when I first saw her, it wasn't our intent.
building them.
No, I understand, but again, nobody asked us for these things. You hire all these professionals, you go through the process. We went down, our neighbor right here has a wall that's twice the size of ours. On the other neighbor over there has walls, and we were building in the same direction, and we didn't think we were creating this problem. So again, I hear these buzzwords, flood and erosion control structure, hardening of the surfaces, all these things. We just don't see that. These are very small walls. They're meant to, just look nice there. And if you've ever been through any storms down there, and we have been through many, these walls are the least of our problems. The town storm system flooding us out is a bigger problem. And we have solutions to that, but we'll talk about that. So.
I'll give you my card.
But I just want you to, please understand, we just didn't, yes, I guess we should have come back in and asked for permission to do this. We just didn't think that these accent walls were going to create this kind of a commotion. So we're trying to do the right thing. We're submitting, getting DEP's response. I appreciate everybody's time here, and I don't want to drag this on, but I didn't bring my engineer with me tonight because we didn't have DEP's response. But regardless of that, I ask you to just please keep it in context. We are asking for a CO. We do want to try to get back in our house that we've been out for 2 years now.
You're still out. Not here.
Yes, and we're trying to make something beautiful. We're not trying to create a hazard in any way, shape, or form. My neighbors are all three of them. We went across the street. We talked to everybody. They all seem and are willing to write letters and everything else. I didn't want to go that far here, but they're all in favor of it. And again, we're just trying to do the right thing. So the as-built shows that we meet the requirements of a finished terrace, I believe, and with the height requirements. And again, we've just, I even submit to you that in our first go around in the approvals, DEP, who looked at this, their biggest concern was maintaining the first 1 inch of runoff and had us install galley systems along the side. These walls, if anything, help those, protect those instead of having them exposed to large storms. So we tried to do the right thing there, and I don't know how else to say that, but and we want it to look nice. We spent a lot of time and a lot of money. We want to be in Madison a long time. We love it down there, and sorry we put ourselves in this position, but you hire professionals that's supposed to get you through this without.
It's complicated.
Yeah, I mean, whoever thought a grading plan, again, we're talking about a grading plan on a 5-foot wide strip, but that's kind of what we're talking about. So I'll try to answer all the questions you have.
Questions? My question really, Erin, is more for you about process. So waiting to hear from Deep.
So so we heard from Deep this afternoon. And I got their notification, I think sent it to Earl at 5 o'clock this evening. So we do have, why does this always happen? No, so we have met, both Maria and I, with the Tuckers to go through the walls initially to determine compliance with walls, retaining walls or finished terraces, how they're defined. We have finished terraces, landscape terraces, and retaining walls, all within the definition section 19 of the zoning code, and they have different requirements as far as the maximum height of the finished grade on the finished side versus the adjacent property, which is really, and that's when, if you exceed a certain height, then those walls are required to comply with minimum setbacks. So that is the reason why we have top of wall, bottom of wall, all the way along both the east and west property lines, to show that they are in conformance with the zoning regulations for finished terraces. Mostly finished because there's patio, or a parking area, and not lawn in some of these areas. Some are walkways. So that checks the boxes. And then really the other question is, so these activities do fall within 25 feet of a coastal resource that triggered a coastal site plan. The south side of the seawall is the limit of the coastal resource. And the second reason, and that's really at the discretion of the commission, is the determination of whether these landscape retaining walls are considered shoreline flood and erosion control structures. That is a mandatory referral to DEEP, which you typically refer all of your applications, your coastal site plans, to DEEP for comment anyways. I was going to just bring up here DEEP's comments.
Quick question on that plan. Is there something that does jut out onto the beach, or I couldn't really tell from the plan? And was that existing?
Nothing jets out onto
Just
the
wanted to
beach.
clarify
Yeah,
that.
those were all.
Oh, I think that's a label.
Yeah.
I can show that. These are just labels. This is the property line.
Right. This is the high
Comes
tide
back.
line.
Yeah, okay.
But
Right,
this is,
and
this
that's-
is the
that's
edge
what-
of the seawall
Right.
here. So this is beach.
Gotcha.
Okay. So as you see, the stone walls run perpendicular to the seawall. And
I've been watching the construction. I know exactly what's going on there.
Like a herd of turtles, we're getting.
So do we. And you should put a turtle crossing sign.
It's a long, painful process. So,
Well, and there are some, sort of rain garden drainages across the street at a couple of properties, but this is so narrow and.
there is stormwater
Yeah.
on site,
Yeah.
subsurface stormwater
Subsurface.
infiltration that you have. That was part of the original, the original application to build the house went through a coastal site plan. There was very limited site grading shown on that site development plan, and that's what sort of triggered this, is there were changes made to the landscaping plan that raised flags for staff as we drove by.
Right.
And then the second question was whether or not a significant amount of fill came in to the property associated with this grading. Were you raising the grade of your property? And so we did ask that the Tuckers calculate that, the cubic yards, and that fell within the allowed acceptable amount for a single family dwelling. So there were no additional fill permits that were required. But basically, the state saying concerning the proposed walls, structural solutions to flood and erosion control problems are allowed by the Connecticut Coastal Management Act policies only in very limited circumstances to protect residential structures existing before January 1st, 1995. Accordingly, no new shoreline flood and erosion control structures such as seawalls can be allowed to protect new residential development from future flooding or erosion problems at the subject site. The commission needs to determine if the proposed walls will have the purpose or effect of controlling flooding or erosion from tidal, coastal, or navigable waters, and therefore meets the definition of a shoreline flood and erosion control structure contained in sections 22A-109C of the Connecticut Coastal Management Act, or if they're truly landscape walls that will not provide protection during flood and storm events. The applicant should also demonstrate to the commission's satisfaction that there are no feasible, less environmentally damaging alternatives to a wall, such as the creation of a vegetated slope. and then offers their services if we have any questions. So the question before you this evening is basically to make that determination of whether or not you see these perpendicular retaining walls running along the properties to function as a shoreline flood and erosion control structure. Reason being, you're in a coastal AE zone, but within the limits of moderate wave action, what they call a LIMWA zone, where essentially the area is treated as a velocity zone. So you're not just getting still water, flood waters, you're getting wave action. And so the question is, are these walls going to cause any adverse impacts to adjacent properties with some type of wave runoff, deflection off of them? And I think those can be looked at differently from, running perpendicular or parallel to the shoreline.
Sure.
Because given the fact that this came in at late in the day, our floodplain manager did not have an opportunity to look at this. And as you didn't have an opportunity to share this with your engineer either. So if the commission looks at this and you feel strongly that these are not considered flood and erosion control structures, you could make a finding of that and consistency with the Coastal Act. If you have additional questions, we can always refer those questions to your expert and to your flood administrator. So those are our options. So that's why I didn't write a staff report or a resolution, because I was waiting. And
Yeah.
so we had it. So if if you do want to move forward, I can help you facilitate a resolution in that direction, or it's really.
I would like to
Further
add
guidance.
to the comment of what Ms. Manning said. When the waves come in down there, you're number one, protected by West Wharf. We also have the luxury of an enormous rock outcrop in front of our high tide line in the ocean. And we've seen a lot of storms come through there. We've seen the wind come from every direction. The wave action comes in straight in perpendicular to the walls. They don't come in any other way. They can't, at least for that area. I can't speak for the rest of the shoreline, but there's not been one storm that they don't come in the same way, which is straight on into the seawall, but which would be perpendicular to these walls. And we've seen some large storms down there. The waves will crash into the rock. They'll hit the seawall. Never seen one crest the wall ever.
I wish we'd gotten this letter earlier. So, because I'm not sure I feel comfortable making a decision without reviewing some of the Coastal Management Act and, how do they define,
Or have some input from.
or get feedback, if we have questions, get more feedback from Deep.
Yeah, I think we need to do this.
So fortunately, I don't know how everyone else feels, but I'm not ready to really.
I'm really conflicted because I want to put these people out of their
I know.
misery. I mean, this is silly in some ways, but I'm not an engineer, and something coming in this late, I will certainly support my colleagues in saying, yeah, let's take a look. That doesn't mean we need a lot of documentation.
You have someone on staff that can look at these and give us their opinion as part of the report.
Well, you have your town engineer who serves as a floodplain administrator. We do have some guidance documents from the state about flood and erosion control structures. It really does come down to the commission's discretion in determining this. So we can get you some more information to help you make your decision, but ultimately, it's not going to be someone else saying this is a flood and erosion
I
control
understand
structure.
it.
The state
Appearances are
typically,
Right.
yeah, and even in still, non-velocity zones, the state does very conservatively look at hardening of the shoreline and walls in general, fencing, berms, all those, all to be considered. And really, in a velocity zone is where you would want to look at them more closely. But I guess the question would be, to really determine if there are impacts on adjacent properties or impacts in a flood zone altogether,
And I feel like
that would require engineering analysis.
right.
Which is,
I feel like the issue has come up before in similar ways with a wall, or maybe it was just
you have had,
fencing.
you have had other
Yeah.
retaining walls, fairly low walls, 18 inches,
Yeah.
things like that. But you have had other applications for retaining walls.
And there are
um,
pros and cons,
in a
and whether you're
wall zone.
preventing other properties adjacent to you from getting damage from your property. I think, was it even a shed that was involved in one of them too?
That's right, you wanted to remove the shed.
Yeah, or. the
You had that, yep, there was another one that you had, that was extending a retaining wall along a driveway.
Yeah, yeah.
Because of washout, and that was adjacent to a beach.
Yeah.
That's like a 4-foot fence or something.
It was more.
This is,
This
yeah, this is, I
This is
would,
landscape.
I would say let's just move on.
My concern is I don't know what happens. It appears to be small. Everything seems to make sense and I don't think there's any impact, but I don't know what happens when water flows up and it goes left instead of right and it floods the neighborhood. Like someone would give me some sense that no, the waves come in straight. There is no way of that happening because we have had situations where that scenario was put forward and the answer is put a notch in the wall and let some of the water go through. And that alleviates the concern. I don't know what it looks fine, but I don't know what it looked like. So I can't render an opinion.
You really
I
want
need
to say
someone to
yes.
decide.
Our biggest issue down there in that stretch of the road is the flooding from the storm system. That if basically the outlet pipe in the ocean surcharges back up, water shoots out of the catch basin and floods all there.
Yeah.
There's no water, we don't have any issues really coming off the ocean. And,
We know where it is.
Yeah, we know where you are.
yeah, I mean, we don't get that. I mean, the bigger headache's water coming from the road back towards the house, if you ask me. But,
So we're not gonna prevent you from moving in if we
Yeah.
just ask for another month to review the
But
information.
we understand.
Put it at your
Yeah,
earlier
that's the
meeting.
next meeting.
Oh, we could even do it at the next meeting.
Add to the next.
The recommendation would be, though, if you have questions regarding impacts of the walls in a flood zone, to have your engineer be able to address those and give their professional opinion as far as any potential.
So that would be the April 4th meeting.
It is April 4th.
And Erin, it
isn't
would be great if we just
Thursday?
had a chance to read the deep response thoroughly and see, if we really understand their issues and what they're asking us to determine.
I agree.
You can send that to us.
Yes, and I'll have it uploaded to the documents attached. And I got it, when I got home from a meeting at Scrog today, so.
So I think that, we just need to make sure our comfort level is there. We don't want to hold you up another minute,
Understand.
but,
Yeah.
due diligence, yeah. And
And
we
I'll read-
appreciate you waiting through
No,
all
I-
our
no
other
problem.
public hearings and.
No problem. Again, we're
to
trying to
see
do
how
the
we
right
work
thing.
and when we get punchy. I came punchy. All right, but we're punchy tired when I got here. Giving us just a couple weeks to absorb this a little bit more.
And
Thanks.
whatever you need, Aaron, just please let us know.
So let's plan for the April.
Yeah.
Is that the April 4th meeting?
Instead of waiting a month.
Yeah, we can get it on your
Thank you. Table it.
agenda and take care of it quickly.
Not first.
All right, thank you very much.
Super.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so much. Have a good
Thank
night.
you, Erin.
Thank you, thank
Nice.
you.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have 23-61 Garnet Park Road, which has drawn their application because they are pending state permitting. So I could recap. Erin, want to add anything to that?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, great. And then 24-09 to 2 Durham Road, 3-lot subdivision. I need a motion to table it to April.
I think that's a typo. It was tabled.
It
to
was.
April
Oh, okay, good.
18th,
So that's on our.
At your last meeting, yes, because
And
it's pending inland wetlands,
wetlands.
that's
Yeah,
why.
Okay, good. So we need more information from them. Okay, and then we're in receipt of 24-10. 8 Opening Hill Road, that's the big Tremaine Foundation, which the documents, some of the documents are
Interesting.
now years, but they'll be
Nothing
coming.
else.
Is that,
Nothing's changed.
nothing's really changed. They gave a little more
Description
information.
of use.
Yeah, gave a little more information.
That's one part.
So, yeah, it's different. So we're in receipt, and could I have a motion to schedule that public hearing for April 18th? Second. Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor? April 18th it is. Thank you. And moving on to approval of minutes. And the Secretary, John Buzek.
Excuse me, do we have to do that with Middle Beach? Do we have to do something?
No, because it won't be a
Tabling.
public hearing and they just, oh yeah, do we need?
I thought you tabled it to April 4th.
We did.
Yes.
Oh, but we don't need a
We didn't do
vote
a
or
big
anything?
vote. Should we make a motion?
You can formally do it, sure. Yeah, so
Go back and-
Well, sorry, okay.
But, oh, yeah.
Okay, we're gonna make a motion to
Thank you.
table 24-07, 63 Middle Beach Road West to our next meeting, which is April 4th.
Now, second it.
Further discussion, all in favor? Okay, it's official. Thank you, Janet. Sorry. Formal. Thank you. Okay, so, and we have 8 Opening Hill Road scheduled for 18th, and then going back to the minutes, John.
Sure, March 7th, 2024 meeting, members present, Snow, Reinhardt, Duza, O'Connor, Bugda, Rubin, Downs, and Morgan. A motion for approval. Up, second.
Second.
Thanks, Carol. Any comments, edits? I did not see any. Looks good to me. Vote to, Janet was absent, correct? Vote to approve? Great.
Thank you. POC discussion, POCD?
Sure. So today, John and his team finalized a draft, a formatted version of the POCD with photos and other maps and images. I can quick bring that up for you if you want to take a peek. I shared it, but I shared it again, as I was traveling. Exactly. That's what I got back. As you know, from my phone. So I wanted to make sure you all got it. But really, it's we've added some photos in here and tried to kind of enhance visually how this is. Really, the areas of changes. So John did an executive summary so this is new. Which tries to highlight, John Morgan, what you had thought a little bit about bringing some of what was deeper in the text of the body up front, but not give it all away. It kind of does. But it is a great summary, I thought. I know you guys really, and I kind of read through this quickly today as well. Kind of throws together the visions, the goals, and the policies up front, and then gets into, the real history, introduction, everything behind a POCD, how you went about doing this, all of your process. Then we break through into the natural and built environments. And so our history here, demographics again. None of this had changed since, you've seen this. The only area that really had changed was some comments and feedback from Bob Reinhardt. And that was section 5 and section 7. So section 5 were our policies. Where am I now? Oh, I got to jump a little bit. So I'm just giving you a quick kind of, so these are our maps. Now, as John indicated at our last meeting, we were going to put some smaller maps in the text and then have an appendix at the end with the larger maps, just because some of them really wanted to be in portrait, just to kind of go with the community, with the shape of our town. So these are photos that, bless you, that we've gathered. Some Carol along her bicycle adventures throughout town. And And the others are really are coming from some from our IT department and photos that the town has taken as
Which are
well.
really good.
And utilized Rita's very nice camera. There is, what's that?
Yeah, we're getting there.
We're getting close.
You can click from the table of contents, right?
Yeah, I was going slowly. That's enough out of you. Okay, so 7 policies. This was our section that we
James Madison looking.
that we went through. And Bob had some nice ideas as far as making these action items, the individual items under these policies. Everything is still here. Some of them we consolidated it a little bit and made a little more actionable so that as we transferred into the implementation table, you could really clearly say, yes, this is a task that we need to do. So we did meet for about an hour and a half or so to go over his ideas, hash them out, do work on some wording. And then I think we sent that to you, Carol, and then to John. So we've had a few eyes on it, but again, that's so you can focus on that. That's a little bit different, but really all the same concepts. Every policy and action item is still encompassed how you initially wrote them. Then we got into the conclusion section, which just kind of wraps things up here and our statements and consistency with other plans. The implementation table was the second section that Bob and I edited. And Bob had done a nice little narrative up at the top to kind of identify, and we broke out the lead entity and partner entity into 2 separate columns instead. It made it a little easier to read. And then we broke out the action items, but not the sub actions in them. It made more sense. So when you're doing, so when you're doing policy A1, you're going to have some subsections that are back in section 5 as well to consider, but it just made more sense to identify the specific action with the lead entity, supporting entities, and then priorities. So these are, for review, see if you think you recommend changes anywhere. And again, to just kind of let out for the public. So we're at this point where if you're comfortable how we have created this formatted draft and you're ready to set a public hearing for 65 days from now, you're welcome to do that today. If you feel strongly that you want to go back and read through this again before you're comfortable setting a date, you do have that option as well. If you have any questions specifically on that, it may be something that Bob or I,
Erin, is it Sunday morning I went through and did another read through, mostly of not section 5 or section 7. And one question still remains, do we need the conclusion section, or does the executive summary take care of what's covered there? That's something for everybody to consider, I think. And then I also just went through for consistency between natural and built environments to make sure we had the same kind of sequencing, the same kind of material there, information there. And then I, like Erin, the different plans I put in chronological order in both places. So just tweaking, kind of fine tuning those sections. So, and also changing it from 2023 to 2024 throughout, including on the title page. It was good.
Let's schedule the hearing before it turns 25.
I know. Anyway, I just wanted to say that I've reached out to Erin and John and Bob. I think you were copied into on some of that about little tweaks I'm still doing. And so John has responded saying, yeah, still tweak. That's what I hope everybody's
to read.
But can we schedule?
My
hearing about still with this?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
because you're gonna publish it.
So
We
it's
read it,
2 weeks
change
is the next meeting, so.
My request, I spent a lot of time with this, with Erin, we're stuck to come through it. Every time I meet with her, Peggy's advice.
What's that?
Every time I meet with you, Peggy steals you for like 20 minutes. It always seems to happen.
They
But
they plan.
I never accomplish anything. I'm always
the-
interrupted.
my point is that in the section 5, where the policies, the actions and the sub-actions are listed, things were moved around, things were reworded, things were consolidated. It keeps the spirit of what we all did, but we never had a meeting where everyone's gone through and say, policy A, objective 1, I agree. I've never heard everyone, we don't need unanimous. We don't need unanimous. Right. I'd like to know that you all agree with what came out of my fever dream when I was reworking all this. So I would request, before we schedule it, that you all look through it and say, yes, I agree or I disagree with these. Make sure the changes that I think were not impactful as far as the meaning truly are. I didn't want to change what we had more or less agreed to, but we haven't really officially agreed that this is what we want. Because you can tell when you look at the Tremaine Foundation, they go straight to the POCD and say, we comply with the POCD. That's a very powerful statement. This needs to be right. There can't be any seams in it that can be used to do something we don't want. So it's a powerful document. It's like we say, it's only statutory what we have. So it has to be done correctly. So I like it, but
I like
I've
it
been doing
too.
this for a couple months. Y'all can look at it and say, yeah, that
The
makes sense.
opportunity to just
Yeah.
really look at it. I'm not gonna do glad having changes, but for something I think, look, I don't think this is clear. Here's
Substantial,
my
it's
suggestion.
not.
It's a yes or no.
Sure. So by our April 4th meeting, could we
That's fair.
figure
Yeah.
out a date for the public hearing?
So we're gonna table scheduling the public hearing until the
That's my
April
request.
4th meeting.
Yes.
Thanks, Ben.
Well, does scheduling the meeting restrict you from making modifications if somebody came up with a suggestion?
So when you start the public comment period, that 65-day public comment period, the document stands.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can write what your recommendation changes are, and changes can be made,
Changes
but
can
they,
be made, yeah.
sure, but they are incorporated after, you know. and-
After the
and-
fact,
and-
okay.
And it opens up a period of time to hear from the public,
Right.
and to get feedback on the plan. So, sure, I mean, it makes sense to have your feedback first on that draft.
Very serious.
And Aaron, you know, we have been, like, we have the public hearing to schedule, then are we going to try to have any kind of coffee or session with, you know, as the housing, affordable housing group has been doing?
Well, I think John
Less
talked about that at the
formal.
last time.
Yeah.
When you schedule a public hearing, you really don't want to get into a situation where you're having a pre-public hearing of the public
Right.
hearing.
Okay.
So I thought it was the recommendation at our last meeting to schedule the public hearing and not schedule additional
From John, that was the recommendation.
meetings. Well, I mean, it
We're
does,
getting, we're
because
getting,
that's-
I'm hearing from Peggy Lyons that she would like us to have some more sort of informational session. Less formal, give the public another opportunity to weigh in.
Well,
So I
that's
socialize the
exactly
document?
that's exactly what you discussed at your last meeting. I didn't
But isn't that
get
the
that
65-day
consensus
period?
out of,
We hold the dog and pony show during that time.
Yeah, that's why I said even like an informal coffee is to
Yeah,
Yeah, that type of thing.
During the period.
let
Right.
people hear.
Yeah.
Hear, yeah.
so I
Within that
don't
period,
think I'm
can-
understanding, you want to have, so the
Within the
public
6
hearing will have will have a formal presentation by Tyke
Right.
and allow for public comment of that.
Why will they present it?
Typically,
Why
as
do
the consultant, they would prepare a PowerPoint presentation
I mean, we'll be there.
of the.
It's not their plan. I'm just saying, I would.
How
I would
do you
never
want to do it?
Hand off a presentation like this to a consultant. It's not their plan. We have to own it. Someone here should present it. Or all of us should present it, or present it with
Divided
with
parts.
John. But having him present it means it's a consultant, who wrote it, not us. We wrote it, we should present it.
I don't
He would be-
necessarily agree with you,
I
but
understand-
that's.
I understand,
He would be
but
more of a
the
fine.
audience-
More
but the audience, not a consultant planning to me, I want to know what everyone here said.
And he would be more a consult, or a facilitator.
Yeah.
Right,
yeah,
absolutely,
question.
right. Just questions.
So I guess we still have.
Right, I mean, I mean, that's how we did it
Well,
with the affordable housing plan as well, is that it was a presentation from the consultant
Yeah,
that
and-
went through the process on behalf of the commission. If the commission wants to do something otherwise, then maybe we discuss that with John
Yeah,
at the next
discuss, yeah.
meeting
Okay.
of how you want to
Whether we do a coffee.
structure that.
Something more informal.
Yeah.
The informal
Before.
part, if I remember correctly from the last meeting, when we discussed the informal part, is that any commentary we take has to be recorded and reflected in the final assessment. So you can, yeah, so if someone says, I don't like section B, right now, so all these.
It goes to the
there's nothing-
public
there's
hearing.
nothing informal. I guess is what I took away from it. That's if we have a meeting with the public, it's a formal meeting, even if it's over coffee with 4 people. It's formal input to us on their opinions. And it could quickly get out of
Okay,
Anfar's control.
I'm happy not to do it too. So why don't we
I
talk,
think-
just make sure that we all understand.
Yeah, I guess the question is, as soon as you have your,
I know it's too late for that. We're.
have your document and however you present that, or you're getting feedback, you're not making changes between
Right, right. I mean, we
receiving
also
them.
have-
You're basically collecting information that you're submitting.
So
the
it's just
hearing. I guess I'm
multiple
just-
Public hearings,
Right.
is what we would end up having.
Yeah, and we have been getting some good feedback saying we've done a great job, we've listened, we've incorporated.
I guess I'm just curious as far as what extent of
Do we need? any more?
conversation and feedback the commission is giving in these informal.
Are we saying we want informal,
I-
or we don't want?
I think we don't want
We don't
informal,
want
that it's too
informal.
late.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
right.
I mean, it would be great if we
But
could
that would
just
work.
set a public hearing date and that's it.
Yes.
But I guess I'm feeling like I need maybe a little more information about, why we're not doing another coffee or something here.
Because the coffee becomes a formal.
Okay. Maybe I don't need any more.
So we're gonna discuss.
I'm just being, well, I'm feeling like I'm being pulled in a couple directions by different people. People who catch you walking down the hall and say, oh, are you gonna do this?
But does
And
Peggy
I'm like,
know?
well, okay.
Good. Does Peggy?
So you can
Yeah,
follow
I
up
understand
on that at our next meeting.
Okay.
How about-
Yeah, let's get more
Because you're gonna take
clarification.
this time to go through and see if you have any.
Yeah.
Any glaring issues, otherwise, if you're.
Speak next on April 4th,
April
or be
4th.
quiet afterwards.
Yes.
Gee,
We'll
now I'm
clarify
looking at
everything.
this and then.
We'll make
That's not fair.
decisions. And then we're good to go.
Okay.
Yeah. That sounds great.
Can we just make sure we schedule the topics before we have?
Yes, April 1st on the list.
Can the Tuckers go first on the agenda, April 4th?
Tucker's first on the agenda.
Sure, and maybe you just do a brief, you can use your next meeting as a presentation
Another little
of your
public-
draft
Yeah,
as you're
absolutely.
scheduling a hearing. I mean, you've had
That could
open,
be it.
very open discussions throughout, and you got feedback from, I think it was Mr. Nordgren at the last meeting
Right,
that said, I think you've
Thank you.
been
for
more
what
than
you've done.
accommodating for public
Yeah.
input.
What do we want to do? Sorry.
We're just gonna have the April 4th meeting,
Yeah.
and that will be like our coffee. It won't be anything,
Well-
published as anything different, but it's just a public
Yes.
meeting.
You know, saying it's a
Our
public meeting
usual.
because all of these have to be public.
They are,
This
but you
is
could
up to
talk
us.
about,
9 of us to
right,
put
your
together or not.
your feedback on this draft formatted version, and if you wanted to go through any specific parts of that. Or if you want, I did understand from our last meeting with John that they would be preparing a presentation,
Yeah.
a formal presentation of the plan.
For the
you.
public hearing.
For the public
Yeah.
hearing,
That's-
right.
That makes sense. It's just who delivers the presentation.
Right.
Well, I guess that should be a conversation, yeah.
Yeah, we can talk about that. Team.
Okay.
But John's right, we should put the Tuckers on first.
Yeah.
Yes. Great.
Sure.
Forever.
Okay, any other comments, remarks? Town planner, chair, no? Motion to adjourn,
Motion to adjourn.
second,
Second.
discussion, all in favor, 10:05. That was a lot, and like.
Thanks for Cal.